Lucky's Naughty Angel, a second chance romance audiobook. Dreams Fulfilled Series Book 2 by Michelle Love and Scarlett King. Blurb.
I don't deserve a girl like Julia. She's young, sweet, pure, sheltered. She's my total opposite. I've been trying to pull my life together since my idiot brother got me thrown in prison, but it doesn't change the facts. I'm a bad guy. I'm a devil, and Reverend Alderson's daughter Julia is an angel on earth. I love her, and I want to do things to her that would make the Reverend want my head. So I have to stay away. But then she decides to kiss me in a damn elevator and make it really clear that she wants me just as bad as I want her, and she's willing to go behind dear old daddy's back to have me. This is a bad idea. But I can't resist. She crooks her finger, and I come running. I've never felt so good about being bad in my life.
Chapter 1. Aaron.
Every day that I wake up a free man, I take a deep breath and thank God for it. Sometimes it takes me a minute to remember where I am, but it all comes back to me when I open my eyes and see my neat little trailer around me instead of a cage. But before I can even do that, I'm stuck shaking off the shadows of the past. The guys at the bar would be shocked to learn that their 6'6" bouncer, who once flipped a Patron's Mini Cooper onto its roof when he wouldn't pay his tab, regularly wakes up gasping, shaking like a kid waking up from a nightmare. But that's me every damn morning. The worst part is that hazy instant before the nightmare lets go of me. For just that moment, I expect that I'll open my eyes and see the cell around me instead of my home, and I'll know that being free was just a dream, and I'm still in that same damned cage that I lived in for 10 years. My personal hell is a real place on earth, that tiny prison cell where the lights would always glare down, shared with 3 other orange jumpsuits. In that hell, even though I knew I could flatten any of them, 2 of the 3 would leave me with scars. Every morning, the remembered nightmare recedes into the darkest parts of my head, where it belongs. This morning, I sit up slowly, rubbing my eyes as the comforter slithers down my bare chest. It takes a few moments for my heart to stop pounding. It's cold in my trailer. I usually turn the heat off in the early hours and rely on my thick down comforters instead. That way, I don't have to dig into my savings by the end of the month just to pay for propane. Fortunately, even without a woman in my life, I've got some help keeping the bed warm. Moose looks up from the foot of the king-size mattress, barely squeezed into the trailer's sleeping alcove. The big dog yawns and whines, thumping his tail. I reach over and scuff his floppy chocolate-colored ears. He's a bit like me, a giant, muscular mutt that finally got out of his cage. First thing I did once I finished parole was rescue Moose from the pound, so I would always have company that understands me. He and I took a road trip upstate to live in the trailer on land that used to belong to my buddy Jake. It's tough to start over with a felony on your record, so I went back to the one place where people actually know I'm not a bad guy, the town I grew up in. Phoenicia's a bitty touristy town in the middle of nowhere in the Catskills, so different from the halfway house in the Bronx and the hell I left behind that I don't really fit in here anymore. I'm a giant tattooed biker with a touch of a Bronx accent now. You would never know that I grew up here. Fortunately, the owner of the local bar is an old friend from school, just like Jake. He even rides himself on weekends, and he was looking for a big, intimidating guy to be his bouncer. That job, along with the place to stay, saved my life as much as the dog and my friends. Phoenicia has pretty clean streets, a selection of restaurants, and even a couple of spots that are open after 10, which is rare around here. I make some of the tourists nervous when I wander around, especially with the big dog, so I do my best to soften my image. Sit down, talk quietly, smile. Leave the armor I grew in prison, which I started forming on the road even earlier, aside. It only works sometimes, so I spend more of my time alone than I would prefer. Especially when it comes to women. The ladies who go to Eddie's bar know that drunk or sober, They're safer with me around than without. Now and again, I get to take one home. But it's always a casual thing for them. Phoenicia considers itself high-end, so almost nobody wants a working-class boyfriend with a record. Moose hops down and shakes himself, knocking me out of my reverie, and I scoot out of bed and stand up, stretching carefully. I tend to knock my knuckles on the trailer ceiling if I don't watch it. I've spent years taking practical steps toward rebuilding my life, fixing up the trailer, then buying it, then buying the land. Only then did I move on from my original Harley and dog trailer to a big red cruiser with a sidecar so Moose could ride in style. He even has his own helmet and goggles. The local kids love watching us roll through town. I spend a good part of my days working now too, sort of. Volunteering at the church every week is as much for me as anyone else. It's hard to keep thinking of yourself as a complete idiot once you wear yourself out delivering meals, fixing a poor local's window, or digging their car out. I sleep whenever I get home, wake up in the late morning, and then spend some time volunteering at the church. I spend part of whatever's left of my time riding with Moose or my friends, and occasionally some of the local hobby bikers. This area has some of the prettiest wilderness east of the Rockies, and it all looks great when you're zooming through on a bike. That's my life now. Sure, it has its lonely spots, even though I have friends and Moose to help with that, but it's also got its own routine. There's no woman in my arms most nights, and no one who wants to stick around when there is. I'm actually okay with that, though. Not because I don't want a good woman beside me. God knows I do after everything I've been through, but because my heart's already picked one. One I can't ever possibly have, but one I think about every night when I close my eyes. As I shower in the tiny pod, I get my morning wood back just thinking about her, Julia, the preacher's daughter and the brightest light in my life. The church I volunteer at is one of 3 in town, and the only one liberal enough for me to tolerate, and traditional enough that they take feeding the hungry and tending to the needy pretty damn seriously. Reverend Alderson, the stiff but kind pastor in charge of the place, doesn't trust me too much. But he's still given me a chance to prove myself, and so I work hard on his food drives and repair program. However, he would definitely draw the line at me trying to date his daughter. Pretty, sweet, and sensual young Julia Alderson is an angel, but she's barely old enough to drink. Not that she ever would, I suspect. The girl has my heart. Damn, she's had it for the past 2 years. But her father thinks I'm dangerous, and she's too young and too pure for me anyway. She's little, barely comes up to my shoulder. She's got nearly a yard of soft auburn hair that she wears in a coiled braid when she's working, or in ringlets when she's feeling fancy. Modest, somber clothes barely do anything to conceal that robust young body of hers. And where her widower father's soft gray eyes are sad and tired, hers gleam brightly, full of life. I know she likes me too. We're buddies, working side by side at every church drive, chatting and laughing together. She likes my jokes. She loves my dog. And for some reason I can't fathom, she thinks I'm a great guy who just got a shitty break in life. I've fallen so hard for her that I can't find my way back out to save my life. For 2 years now I've been her friend, worked with her to make Phoenicia better under her father's watchful and slightly suspicious eye, and closed my eyes every night wishing she was beside me. No matter who I'm with, she pops into my head when I get turned on, and I can't bust without thinking about her. I open the trailer's tiny closet and look in on a mass of leather and denim. I grab a clean work shirt and black plaid from the drawers below, then hunt up a clean pair of jeans and my vest. I pull it all on over my thermal long johns. It's maybe 20 degrees out. Even Moose gets a vest before we go out, black leather lined in sheepskin like mine. He whines when I put his paw covers on, putting up a little struggle that would flatten a smaller man. Oh, come on, don't be a damn baby about it. There's road salt everywhere. I grumble at him pointlessly as I finish dressing him and give him a belly scratch to calm him down. Moose is a good dog. He even looks it once you get past his size. He's as floppily enthusiastic as a puppy with his affection. He has a practically ear-to-ear doggy grin, and he's incredibly gentle around small people and other dogs. But of course, he's going to cry a little about the weird doggy shoes that keep the salt and frost from his pads. As soon as we step out of the trailer onto the thin crust of snow, The icy wind hits me like a slap in the face. Damn. I put my collar up and pull down my watch cap with a sigh. The beauty of the upstate has a brutal side, but you either adapt or get out. Moose takes off like a shot across the field, chasing after one of the brave squirrels that's being blown around by the wind. The fat little guy runs up one of my maple trees and stops barely out of reach, barking and chattering. They all know Moose by now, and they know that the one unfortunate squirrel he actually caught only received a slobbery bath, and that Moose dropped it and ran after getting a bite on the nose. It's hard to command fear and respect when even the squirrels know you melt in the face of cuteness. I put my gloved hands on my hips and look around, the leather of my coat creaking slightly as I move. It still smells of the factory, like leather polish and lanolin from the sheepskin lining. The air has that particular dry cold smell, sharp and almost dusty, tinged with wood smoke. My land is 4 acres and just across the creek from town. It's lightly sloped and is ringed and dotted here and there with maples, black walnuts, apple trees, and an assortment of evergreens. The land is stony and overworked, and I've spent time digging out the rocks, planting clover, and plowing it under with borrowed gear, slowly building on it as I can afford to buy materials. It isn't much to look at yet. The heavy-duty fence is built from pallet wood and salvaged timber, bare now of its climbing vines, with a gate I built myself. The land is mostly bare, though I've started terracing the back half with bluestone I dug up. A salvaged stone path leads up to the trailer door. Julia helped me lay the stones and gather moss to plant in between the cracks to keep out the cheatgrass. I told her she didn't have to, that she'd mess up her pretty little hands, but she just laughed and pulled on gloves. She's always trying to make me happy. I wish she'd stop. It makes me love her more, and I can't touch her. In fact, if I ever so much as kiss her, I know I'd end up doing whatever she asks after that. And then we would both be in trouble. She's 21, attractive and healthy. The way she looks at me sometimes makes me think I should get my eyes checked, those or my head. It's gotta be wishful thinking on my part, believing that I see an expression on her face that suggests that she not only likes me but wants me. Stop torturing yourself. I go to check my bikes. That damn drunk of a building inspector gave me hell about permits, so I had to buy a prefab shed for my vehicles and workshop. It's an ugly chunk of corrugated steel and plastic, and it sits on the windward side of the trailer. Most days it cuts the breeze and snow pile up, but not today. Today, the winter wind is swirling, hitting from weird directions as it angles off the mountains. Sometimes it comes from the northeast, and it bites deep into my bones. There's definitely a storm coming. I'd better get the spare propane tanks from the shed, in case I'm stuck inside for a while. I'm headed for the shed, just stepping onto the gravel driveway in front when my phone buzzes in my pocket. Huh. I check the time. It's 7 in the morning, 2 days before Christmas. Who is even up this early? Then I see the number and smile before I can stop myself and take the call. Hey Jules, aren't you supposed to be sleeping? The voice on the other end is musical and full of excitement. I can't. The food delivery's here early, and thank God, because they just upgraded the storm enough to give it a name. We have a damn blizzard headed this way just in time for Christmas. I stop dead. Oh crap. Wait, so we're doing deliveries today? We are doing everything today. Sorting, bagging, delivery. They sent too much stuff, and if we don't get it distributed, it will go bad sitting inside. The church had been approved for food distribution, the same year that I fell in love with Julia. 3 months later, the local eccentric, Dr. Whitman, donated enough scratch for us to expand the church basement and turn it into a food storage facility. It's pretty roomy, and stocked with enough stuff to cover the whole town for weeks if there was a disaster. But the Reverend sees ongoing hunger as just as much of a disaster as a hurricane, and he's right. People, children, go to bed hungry right here in my hometown and all around it every day. I might be a bad guy, but even back in the big house, a lot of guys wouldn't have liked that idea one bit. A lot of them went hungry as kids themselves. My heart starts beating faster again, but this time it feels great. I'll have to shuffle some things around to spend my afternoon there as well, but I don't care. Okay. What do you need from me? You. The motorcycle with the sidecar. As many hours and as much gas as it takes. Her voice is so warm. I really can't stop smiling. Okay. I'll be over as soon as I can. I don't care if I go straight from there to work and fall into bed exhausted tomorrow morning. Spending the whole day with Julia makes the whole thing worth it. I hang up and look over at Moose. Come on, boy, we got families to feed.
Chapter 2. Julia.
There's no way that I can get a rental truck 4 days early, not this close to Christmas. Dad sits back from his laptop with a sigh, rubbing his lean face. He looks so crestfallen that I go over and hug him. Don't worry, Dad. I called 10 volunteers while you were looking for one and have them on standby. We've got 1 van, 1 pickup, 7 cars, and Aaron's sidecar at our disposal. I deliberately use Aaron's first name just to see that little twitch it puts in the corner of Dad's eye. I love my dad, and I've helped him run the church since Mom died. I look up to him in a lot of ways, but he has his flaws, just like everyone. The biggest one is that he prejudges people sometimes. He's not racist, and he doesn't look down on the poor, but he makes certain judgments about bikers, stoners, hippies, guys with records. And the guy he's judged the most harshly is the one I want to spend my life with. One day I hope to prove to him that he's got Aaron all wrong. It hurts a little that he sticks to his prejudices toward the guy who has done so much heavy lifting around the church for years. Especially because Aaron is so important to me. But all of that is secondary now compared to reassuring Dad that we're ready to get through this day. 20 degrees? Icy. Hundreds of pounds of food to sort and distribute, with a damn blizzard breathing down our necks? No problem. We're on the case. My dad blinks in surprise and then smiles tentatively. Good work, he says simply, and I hand him a fresh cup of coffee to fortify him for the day ahead. After a quick breakfast of eggs, apple pancakes, and sausage, we're outside helping a small crowd of volunteers unload the delivery company's huge truck. I'm at one of the folding tables we have set up beside it, cutting open boxes of food and sorting the contents into smaller boxes to distribute. The tables are wedged into the space between the delivery truck and the weathered side of the church so that the heaving wind can't blow the lighter things away. We're hoping to eventually add a covered bay along the side to make unloading in extreme weather easier, but we can't quite get to that project yet. There are too many more important ones on the way. The church is creaky and old, formerly a Dutch Reformed church that was sold after Hurricane Irene flooded so much of the area. A lot of people moved out of town after that. We moved in, and fixing and updating the big wooden building is as much a part of our lives as ministry or charity. That's actually how I met Aaron Gates, former biker, current bouncer, handyman, dog daddy, and the man of my dreams. He is a guy who has spent a third of his life in jail or on parole for a crime he didn't commit. Also, his brother wouldn't have to be put away for even longer. Now he keeps drunks from acting up in town by night and helps us with our church projects by day. I remember the day I met him over 2 years ago. He was new in town, and my father, who believed in second chances as long as they weren't involved in dating his daughter, apparently offered him a place in the congregation. Soon after that, he started volunteering, and that was how I first crossed paths with him. Him carrying lumber up to the steeple to reinforce it from within. He's a mountain of a man. Big, burly, solid. He towers over everyone I know, even my dad, who is a beanpole. He's actually the exact opposite of my dad, appearance-wise. A little scruffy, with keen dark eyes and short hair that almost looks black and is constantly swept back. When I saw him stomp past, whistling with what looked like an entire tree's worth of lumber on one muscled shoulder, everything stopped inside me, and all I could do was stare. I don't really date. There isn't much opportunity. I don't have much time between church, volunteering, and commuting to and from the seminary in Rochester, where I live for half the week during the semester. But every time I'm home, and even remotely near Aaron, he's always in my thoughts. Who would be better to spend the rest of my life with than my best buddy, the guy who gets things done, the guy to whom I can tell any secret and know that he will keep it? Yes, he's a lot older than I am, and there are some people in town who will never trust him, but I do. And I wish Dad did. I get working as soon as I leave my dad, distributing frozen chickens into boxes, 3 to a box, along with a package of frozen ground beef. The vegetarians get beans, tofu, nuts, wild rice mixes, squash, and a couple of those horrible fake turkey loaves that apparently taste a lot better than they look. As I empty each box, I set it aside, and the man himself lumbers out of the truck with another. So, how's it going? Aaron asks with that tender-eyed smile as he sets the big box on the table with a soft thud. I beam at him. We have enough food to give everyone half again as much as last year, take care of a lot of drop-ins, and then fill up our larders too. I don't know how Whitman did it all, but I'll take the early delivery if it means we can get it all out before the storm comes. I tend to chatter when I'm excited. Me too. Again, I see that brief flash of a grin, a pretty rare occurrence. Aaron does smile a lot, especially when he's with me, or with his dog, who is keeping some of the other volunteers' kids busy playing. But he lights up when he's around me. People have commented on it before. My father has also commented on it, and not in a good way. However, in my dad's head, I'll probably always be 12 years old, even after he's retired and I've taken over the ministry. Maybe he would keep any guy who looks at me like Aaron does under a microscope. I wouldn't know because I don't notice other guys. Not like this. I've already decided to do something about this whole ridiculous, unresolved tension thing. Ridiculous because I'm an adult, we're both single, and we should really do something about this. Once the boxes are loaded up and closed, they go on a hand truck out to the volunteers' vehicles. The first cars are already coming back from their first set of deliveries, but Aaron has been stuck here, transferring cases of food and helping the less capable volunteers push their assigned hand trucks. I love watching him work. The man is tireless. I can only imagine what he would be like in bed, not that I know much about that sort of thing, but hey, a girl can dream. I'm catching myself staring at him for the third time when Marion, one of my volunteers, comes up to me, brushing snow off her rust-colored parka. She's a tall older woman with a long, strong-jawed face, and she smiles awkwardly at me. Hey. Hi Marion, what's going on? I rearrange the contents of one of the boxes, making sure the loaves of bread don't get squashed, then fold it shut as I look up at her. A bit of odd news, actually. I'm just trying to find out who knows what. Did you hear about the mistletoe? Someone put it up all over town. Her lips twitch with a mix of amusement and baffled curiosity. I blink at her slowly. I've been here sorting chickens and canned goods since about 8. I haven't heard anything about this. What exactly did I miss? Mistletoe. Aaron frowns as he brings coffee over in 2 plain white mugs. He hands me one, looks at Marion, who has clearly been out in the weather, and hands his over to her without missing a beat. Thank you. She warms her long fingers around the mug. Not even the thickest gloves will keep out the biting cold if you're out there long enough. Yes, the town's thick with it. Looks like some kind of prank. I guess the church didn't get hit? Not as far as I know, I venture. That's because I took all those ridiculous sprigs down. My father sighs as he comes out, entering distribution figures into a spreadsheet on his laptop. This morning, 7 sharp, on my morning walk. I'm all for a good prank, but this is still God's house. I guess so, Reverend. Marion takes a deep swallow of her coffee, while Aaron patiently turns to get himself and my dad some more from inside. Seems pretty strange, though. I wonder who would do something like that. My dad folds his arms, a faint, disinterested smile on his face. I have no idea. You're no fun, Dad, I tease him once Marion goes back with her arms full, ready to start loading up her car again. He eyes me. Don't tell me you were in on this mistletoe prank. Apparently, they're hanging everywhere in town. I need to invite Aaron into town. No, this is actually the first that I have heard of it. I'm kind of wondering who did it. There are some really fun weirdos in Phoenicia. Most of them were either priced out of Woodstock, got sick of New York City, or seem to have just sprouted up here, like Dr. Whitman's son Jack. Now that guy is definitely my #1 suspect for a Christmas-themed prank like this. After all, every year, starting mid-December, his dad's lawn looks like the Macy's Christmas parade, and his family throws a Christmas feast for the whole town and makes huge food donations. Jack was raised in a family that loves Christmas. Jack, who is sensual but can't hold a candle to Aaron, is the fun kind of idle rich. He's a skier with a rack of trophies, known for following the snow season across the equator to Australia just so he can enjoy it longer. The half of the year that he's here, he parties and flirts his way through the mountains. Then, as soon as the snow melts, he's gone again. He has the time, cash, and energy to double his father's food donation early, and yet right on time. He has just the kind of odd sense of humor, paired with a huge list of friends and the connections necessary, to see that our morning food distribution wakes up everyone early so they'll have to witness the prank, his prank, in town. The big weirdo may also have the world's only bulk mistletoe hookup. He probably got a reference from his father. I have to hand it to both of them, about the donation part at least. Most rich New Yorkers are alarmingly self-interested. But not those two. They're going above and beyond to spread the Christmas cheer, and maybe some kisses, this year. I turn to eye Aaron speculatively as he comes back out with mugs of coffee in each fist. He hands one to my father, who thanks him for a little stiffly, and then comes over to me, slowing down with a look of mild worry on his face. What? I smile with all my innocence. Nothing.
Chapter 3. Aaron.
Sweet little Julia is up to something. I can just tell. She's smiling too much, and she's looking at me with this mischievous expression that leaves me just a bit concerned. Julia doesn't know how to flirt, and I thank God for that, because if she ever really came on to me, she would have me wrapped around her little finger in an instant. Hell, I'd be happy about it. Her father, on the other hand, would probably drive me out of the church. And besides, there's one thing about me that he's right about. I don't deserve someone as pure, attractive, and full of life as Julia. If she thinks that I do, she's selling herself short. But a guy can dream, right? As long as I remember, all I'm going to be doing is dreaming. We make it to 1 in the afternoon before we run into our first glitch, which is amazing given the huge amount of food we have to sort and pass out in a short time. But when things finally go wrong, they do it in a big way. What do you mean we've lost track? How much food got loaded downstairs? Poor Reverend Alderson is managing to keep his voice quiet, but his eyes show that he's ready to tear out his own hair. Poor guy. He might have a stick up his butt, but he doesn't deserve stress in return for his kindness. Julia and I exchange glances, and she gives me a nod. We both hover around while the crisis unfolds, ready to step in. The bearer of bad news is Tom XMY, a kid who works at the gas station. He's a little bear of a guy in Coke bottle glasses, who squirms at the note of desperation in the Reverend's voice. Well, enough that we're having trouble opening the doors. But we haven't even finished unloading the truck. He looks into the back of the delivery truck, from which boxes are still coming out, and over at all the volunteers' cars, which have all made at least 3 trips around the county and are loaded to the gills again. How did they fit it all? I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is almost too much of a good thing. Don't worry, Dad, Julia speaks up, walking over and offering to take his laptop. I'll go down to the storeroom and tally things up. I'll just need some help getting the door open. He relinquishes the laptop. You're sure? I have no idea what it's like down there right now. It might be a total mess. I'll manage. She looks over at me. Come on. I may need some help shuffling some of the stacks of boxes around. The truck's almost empty. Everyone else can take it from here. I nod and trail her inside, trying not to walk too close. Too much of that, and I know I'll be in trouble again. I can't be of use with the food distribution if I'm stumbling around with boner brain. You know, I know it's stressing, Dad, but having so much donated food that we lose track of it all is a pretty good inconvenience. We head through the kitchen and into the hallway, which is narrow and floored with peeling linoleum. I mentally add that to my repair list. I nod in agreement as we head for the freight elevator at the end of the hall. Too many times, especially these days, food drives scratch along on almost nothing. You've said it. But directing the whole event still has to be stressful for him. Always. He's too rigid and stuck in routines for his own good. Big changes always stress him out. She stops in front of the elevator, and I pull the lever, unlatching the pull-down safety gate and shoving it upward. She ducks in ahead of me. Thank you, sir. You're welcome, ma'am. There's that smile I can't fight again. The elevator's roomy and dim with a high ceiling. There's an odd spicy green smell hanging around the air in the place. It's a little familiar, but I can't place it. Has someone donated a bunch of mustard greens to go with the other stuff in the fridges downstairs? On her way in, Julia pauses for just a moment, and I hear her let out a little laugh before she continues inside, as if she's just thought of something, or noticed something. I step in after her and close the gate. So, she says suddenly as I'm reaching to throw the lever and send us down, you know all that mistletoe Dad says he removed from the church? I pause, the naughty tone in her voice startling me, and look back at her. Yeah. She reaches past me and pulls the lever, closing the door on us and sending the elevator rumbling slowly downward. He missed a sprig. I look down at her and see her wide grin as she steps closer. Then, I look up straight at a bundle of mistletoe hanging right above me. Crap. I freeze, knowing what is about to happen and almost dreading it, knowing as well that I can't stop her. I don't want to. She presses her body into me, the pleasure of it mixing with a searing hunger as I fight not to grab hold of her. Her lips brush against mine, and her arms slip around my neck as she clings to me. She kisses me with a mix of sensuality and tenderness that melts my heart. Oh my. I'm in trouble. I don't care. Why did I ever hold back from kissing her? I have never felt anything so right in my life. It's sweeter than my first breath of free air. I have to have her. Now. Right now. Wait, what am I doing? I gently pull away, and she makes a small, disappointed noise in her throat. When I finally get control of myself, I stare down at her in amazement. Julia, what are you doing? What I've wanted to do for more than a year, she replies with a wicked grin. Baby, we really shouldn't, I start, and she simply moves closer, laying a slim, warm finger against my lips. Shush. I'm doomed. The elevator rattles to a stop, and we kiss again. We stand there wrapped up in each other for so long that I lose track of why we're down here. She's so soft, so warm, so fragrant. So perfect. I try to be gentle. But again, she's not making it easy. She presses into me with the eager and slightly clumsy enthusiasm of someone totally new to kissing. The realization that she probably is, that I might be the first to ever feel her this way, only turns me on even more. But then, before either of us can catch our breath or say anything about what has just happened, there's a heavy clunk and the elevator starts rising again. What? The hairs on the back of my neck start prickling, and I let her go, breathing hard and moving back against the wall of the elevator while she wipes her mouth and steps back. Someone's called the elevator and will be joining us in a moment. The outer door rumbles up as we come to a stop, and my heart sinks into my boots. The Reverend's standing there, scowling at us both.
Chapter 4. Julia.
The kiss was everything I had hoped for. Especially when I realized how enthusiastically Aaron was returning my kiss. He must have been crushing on me even harder than I was on him. I lied when I said that I had only wanted to kiss him for a year. It's been over 2 years. Since the first day I saw him. I went to bed that night wondering what his mouth would taste like. Now I know. He tastes like coffee and mint mixed with his warm musky male scent in my nostrils. He's intoxicating. Knowing only makes me want more. When he steps away from me, I'm so dizzy and keyed up that his sudden absence against my body hurts like a missing limb. But a split second later, I realized that someone had called the elevator, and we were about to have company. Crap. I wipe my mouth and move back against the wall, catching my breath. I definitely need some real privacy before I try this mistletoe trick again. The laptop's on the floor. I can't remember whether I set it there or dropped it, but I snatch it up and check it. No damage. Then the gate opens and I see that it's Dad, standing there with his arms folded. Shit. I give him a smile. I'm not actually doing anything wrong after all. But overprotective fathers have to be reassured sometimes. Hi, Dad. Did you forget something? I thought I would come down here and help you tally, he replies after a moment of staring suspiciously at the two of us. I feel my heart clench, but after a few moments he relaxes and holds out his hand for his laptop. If a room that large is full of supplies, then it's not a two-person job. That's true enough, Reverend, Aaron responds with a touch of relief in his eyes. For a moment, I feel guilty. But then I remember how he shook when I kissed him, and how his whole huge, solid body turned to putty in my hands. Oh no. We're definitely not done with this. I smile to myself before looking up at my dad and nodding. Let's get started then. Aaron and I settle back into our friendly rapport for the rest of the afternoon. By the end of it, we're stocked up, and so is everyone on our donation list. We're also both exhausted and sore. I gotta get a shower before my shift, Aaron groans, stretching and rolling his massive shoulders. For just a moment he shoots me a smoldering glance, which tells me he wishes I would join him. But being Aaron, he's back to not saying a thing. Probably because dear old Dad planted himself right beside us after he found us in the elevator, watching us both like a very irritated hawk in a clerical collar for the rest of the afternoon. Dad doesn't miss much. I know I'm in for a lecture when we get home. He's out of bounds, but I'll have to take it anyway because he loves me, and he's too stressed right now for me to fight it. But that kiss. It told me everything. I hadn't been deceiving myself. The guy I've been waiting for has been waiting for me too. My dad will have to find a way to cope with that eventually. I just don't want him to deal with it now. I also don't want to deal with him dealing with it now. I can only imagine the tidal wave of drama that will be set loose once I finally tell him my intentions, to be with Aaron forever. It's the damn holidays. I'm tired, I'm in love, and I want to be happy. I also want Dad to be happy. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. Unfortunately, he's already suspecting something. When I finally get home, shower and get into my purple sweatpants and a giant pink flannel shirt, he's very quiet as he heats up the lasagna I fixed for tonight. He hasn't turned on his jazz station. That's a huge red flag. I'm definitely in for a lecture. I come down the narrow stairs with a little sigh, looking out each of the little windows lining the stairway as I pass them. Our house sits behind the church, a tall, slim Victorian half hidden in the trees. Like a lot of buildings up here, it's painted white with green trim and a red door. Unlike a lot of buildings up here, it's surrounded by gravestones from the churchyard. It makes for an interesting view as the sun sets and the snowflakes swirl down. Just that nightmare before Christmas touch that I like best. I prepare myself mentally as I walk. All my life, Dad's been overprotective of me. But once we lost Mom, he got brittle. Before then, his portrayal of the stick-up-the-butt minister had a humorous edge that was gentled by my mom's presence. But now it's like part of him has frozen over, making him cold and stiff and too easy to snap. I handle him carefully, not just because I hate the drama, but because I realize that these days, drama's really not good for him. I wish Mom was here. Mom would have loved Aaron. Her dad used to be a Hell's Angel before he settled down and started his own motorcycle garage back in California. Grandpa took me riding a few times when I was tiny, and I remember Mom laughing as I squealed with delight, while at the same time, Dad fluttered his hands slightly and made small, nervous protests. I've always wished that I could run off on some adventure on a motorcycle like Mom once did, before I'd have to do the responsible thing and settle in for church duties and seminary. But losing Mom meant that someone had to step in and help Dad, at least part-time. That's what I do now when I'm in town and over the phone, or online when I'm in Buffalo. It's good practice for the job I want, taking over this place and letting my dad enjoy his retirement. He'll still volunteer his head off, of course. But once I'm the one wearing the collar around here, I can shoo him off to his books and jazz when he gets too overwhelmed. Dad knows I'm an adult and has seen what I can do, but he just can't back off with his hovering and protectiveness. I know why, so I don't normally complain much. His head's still full of nightmares over Mom's loss. He's scared to lose me too. Of course, I understand. But sometimes, trying to fight against his overprotective fears makes me crazy with frustration. Thus, I take a couple of minutes to focus on myself before joining him in the dining room. "You did good work today," he starts off as I settle into my seat across from his. Dad always starts and ends serious discussions with the positive, so we start with our ears open and end without wanting to keep yelling at each other. It needed to be done. Besides, it was just amazing. Everyone's fridge will be full well before the storm. I move our entree in front of me and set to work with a knife and spatula. He'd set out the lasagna in its baking dish, like a giant TV dinner. At least he remembered a trivet. He nods mutely and just watches for a minute as I cut generous squares of lasagna for each of our plates. It's a one-dish meal full of beef, cheese, spinach, mushrooms, homemade red sauce, and spices. I cook for fun and to see the way the men in my life light up when I set a good meal in front of them. "You okay, Dad?" I ask him gently as he sits stiffly in his seat instead of starting prayer. "I'm worried about you, Julia," he says very gently, and my smile freezes on my face. Here we go. "Okay, what's got you worried?" "I told you I'd start saving for the four-wheel drive instead of that cute Kia." "You're right. Commuting to and from Buffalo in winter isn't safe in a small city car." He blinks and sits back slightly. "Wait, you did?" "I was very tired this morning." I nod. "That's okay, maybe I wasn't clear." It's always best to pretend obliviousness to derail suspicion. Also, he is right about the damn car. He nods briefly, seeming just a touch more relaxed. At least he can see that I still have my common sense. Good. But no, that isn't what's worrying me. I knew you'd make the right decision about trading in your truck. Okay, so what's the concern? I look down at my plate. My mouth is watering. We don't take a single bite before prayers in this house, which means I either have to resolve his worries quickly or let my lasagna go cold. You and Mr. Gates. I'm concerned about his influence on you. He watches my face. This may be the 12th time in 2 years that you've said that, Dad, and in that time, Aaron hasn't been a bad influence on me. If anything, we've been a good influence on him. And Aaron has come back strong. I remember a time when getting him to smile or make eye contact was a Herculean task. My father rubs his face and then looks up at me, his eyes a little bleary from exhaustion and frustration. That's very likely true. I'm not discounting the improved state of Mr. Gates's soul, which has been remarkable. He does a great deal of good work for us, and since he's gotten back on his feet, he has asked for little in return. Then what's the issue? Seriously, Dad, you keep coming back to this, and then nothing ever happens to make us regret my friendship with him. I am trying to point out the history of his suspicions, and all the times he's cried wolf about Aaron. The guy cares about me. About you too, for that matter, I add. That's different. He looks away. I just don't want you getting hurt. Why do you think he would hurt me? I'm genuinely astonished. Julia, he may care about you, but he has a history of violence. He was in jail for 10 years for beating a man nearly to death. What if he can't leave that violence behind? He has. Dad, I've told you that he went to jail in his brother's place. He's innocent. If he's innocent, he would have fought for his freedom and his reputation. He tells a story about taking the fall for his older brother, but how believable is that? His frown doesn't waver. He's genuinely worried, and I'm not quite sure how to reassure him. Dad, This is a guy who gives all his weekends to us, provides the town with thousands of dollars of free labor every year, and has worked like crazy to leave his old life behind. He makes big sacrifices for others all the time, and for his brother. I believe him, Dad, and I think that time will prove me right. He winces and looks away, his expression so troubled that I fall silent. You're in love with him, he says very quietly. And so you're defending him. Just like your mother did with her father during his hell-raising days. His eyes rise to mine slowly. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Dad, look. My heart is banging away and sending ice water rushing through my veins. Oh God, please help me out here. I'm trying to ease his fears without treating him like a child. First and most importantly, it isn't that I thought you would not notice anything. It's that I thought you would trust me to show good judgment and to know that if I trust Aaron enough to want him in my life, there are good reasons for that. That catches him by surprise, and he relaxes a little more, taking a deep breath. You're concerned that I'm worried because I'm not in full possession of the facts? I think that's part of it. But my dad doesn't want or need to be in full possession of the facts, not if some of them are non-essential and would hurt his peace of mind. Aaron didn't influence me to kiss him. He didn't push a kiss on me. I kissed him under the damn mistletoe, and I have no regrets. But it would still freak my dad out to learn about it. Fine. What facts am I not aware of? He looks down at the cooling lasagna and sighs. Briefly. The one you should most know is that he's anything but violent, Dad. Go into the bar sometime while he's working, and you'll see it in action. He has a job that could be violent if he made it so. He has drunks from 3 counties testing his patients all night. That catches his interest. He nods, brow furrowing. Go on. He has never raised a hand to any of them. He's trained in judo and just marches them outside. Sometimes he even holds them for Earl when the cops need to be called. Nobody has ever complained of rough treatment except for one guy who Aaron pulled off a woman who was calling for help. These things are important. All of them. Dad, I'm not asking you to take me at my word. I'm asking you to look at the man that Aaron is, the man he proves himself to be every day. Even if he was a bad man once, he's done his penance, and he's been seeking redemption. He's also a really responsible guy. This is going better than expected, but I still wish I could plow through and soothe myself with too much lasagna. He's old for you. That protest is a bit weaker. He is. I run into a wall for a moment. Come on, you were doing so well a moment ago. But I want the kind of guy who is stable, responsible, wants to get serious, and has his own money. And I'm sorry, but have you met guys my age? College-age guys often appear to be exactly the kind of people my father and I despise. Passionate, faithless, thoughtless, and often seemingly brainless. Maybe I just have incredibly bad luck, but I keep running into guys my age who seem bent on sleeping with a ministry student like it's a personal challenge, with no other interest in me at all. He lets out a soft laugh. Sadly, yes. I was one. You have a point. I just worry. I admit, I'd prefer you settle down with someone who lives here rather than someone over in Buffalo. There isn't someone else in Buffalo, is there? I roll my eyes. Dad, we wouldn't be having this conversation if there were someone in Buffalo. He relaxes more and even lets out a little laugh. I'm sorry. I just don't want you making any decisions you might end up regretting. But Dad, I say patiently, everyone has regrets sometimes. I know life's full of trials and disappointments, and I need you to trust me to be tough enough to handle it. Okay? He smiles faintly. Okay. But then he frowns, half theatrically. But don't let me catch you kissing that biker. Dad, if you catch me kissing that biker, there will be mistletoe involved. From now on, we'll be kissing in private. He folds his arms. All the more reason for me to pull down every sprig of the stuff I see. Humph, my only response. But at least he's satisfied enough by my answers to say prayers and let us eat. We both go down for a nap after our very early dinner. Dad has to take some of his sinus meds and ends up conked out for good. I feel bad for him. Except that it means he won't wake up for at least 8 hours. I can do a lot in 8 hours. I dress very carefully. I don't want to look too obvious with too much makeup or fancy hair. I don't want there to be any chance of gossip when I'm seen around Aaron. The warm sheepskin lining of my coat rubs softly against my skin, teasing me as I think about his hands on me. The thermal bottoms are a little scratchy, especially where they tuck into my snow boots, and so is the simple blue wool scarf I tuck into my collar at my throat. They do the job though. When I finally walk outside, the cold doesn't get through despite my modified outfit. If Dad knew what I was doing, he would flip. But the thing that would make him flip the most is that I'm the one on a mission. I leave the lights on and bring my phone, pretending that I'm going out on an errand. If Dad wakes up unexpectedly, that's what I'll tell him. We're out of eggnog anyway. The snow has stopped again, leaving a thin icy crust on the sidewalks. It's such a short walk to the gas station convenience store and the bar across from it that I can excuse going out without my truck and being in the area. From there, it's a short walk up the hill to Aaron's land. And his trailer. And his bed. I've never felt like this before in my life. I know it's because of him. That first kiss was off the scales awesome, definitely worth the wait. But now that I've had a taste of him, I don't want to wait for any more.
Chapter 5. Aaron.
I know I'm in for a really shitty shift when I come in and hear a familiar voice yell, "Hey Lucky," from the corner of the bar. I stop dead, squeezing my eyes shut, the euphoria from that kiss with Julia vanishing like smoke. There's only one guy around anymore who calls me that, and I never wanted to hear from him again. I open my eyes, look over to the voice, and see my big brother Daniel, leaning toward me from his seat at a corner table. He was older by almost 20 years, with gray in his hair, but with the same dress and manner that I remember. He's grinning wide enough for the scar on his cheek to crease like a bad seam in his leathery skin. Not again. Give me a second. I send a beer over to him to mollify his alcoholic ass, then check in with my boss Eddie, who nods at me and twitches a small smile as I approach. Hey, I'm in for the night. Any problems? Like with him? We both look over at Daniel, who is still grinning, obviously drunk, his face red beneath the road tan and his overlong curls sticking wetly to his forehead. He looked like me if I was a foot shorter, ate nothing but cheeseburgers and booze, and got beat a few times with the ugly stick. He's also an idiot. But he's family, and he knows I make sacrifices for my loved ones. So the first thing I wonder is what he's here to ask me for, and how much trouble he plans to cause until he gets it. That guy. No problem, except he should probably be cut off about now. He's kind of a jackass, but I saw the resemblance, so we didn't throw him out. My boss offers a lopsided smile. I wouldn't have taken it personally if you had thrown him out, I admit. I'll go deal with him. Yell if you need me. He nods, likely knowing it wouldn't be necessary. Being in prison has left me with an instinct for trouble. Even if Daniel wasn't my brother, I would still be keeping a closer eye on him than on anyone else in here for just that reason. He's smirking as I walk over. It's all I can do not to grab him by the collar and haul him off his feet, and as he sees the look in my eyes, the smirk fades. Hey, he says in that used car salesman tone that he uses when he wants to talk me into something. I'd hoped never to hear it again. What the hell are you doing here, Daniel? I demand in a low, hard tone as I walk up to him. In response, he pushes out the chair across the table from him with his foot. Just a little talk. I take a deep breath. Eddie's watching us like a hawk between serving drinks, in case I need backup. I need to keep this job. I smile tightly, settle into the seat, and then say, we shouldn't be having a conversation at all. He chuckles. I'm hurt. Yeah, I know. You said after everything you did for me, you wanted out of the business and me out of your life. I get it, I do, and I know you're a stand-up guy. Not every guy will do a dime and change for his brother. I stare at him. The deal was, I do that for you, and then you walk out of my life and take the gang, and all your crazy baggage with it. The illicit substances, the guns, everything you dragged me into when I was 15 and too dumb to know better. Oh yeah, I get it, I do. And you got a pretty raw deal in prison, or so I hear. Only got one working kidney left, isn't that right? His voice has a wheedling tone of mock sympathy to it. Yeah, that's right. I lean forward knowing three things. I'm bigger, fitter, and tougher than him. He's on my turf and drunk as hell, and he owes me way too much to be coming back for another favor now. Now, once again, why are you bothering me? Are you dying? Is Dad dying? I don't know. Old bastard doesn't talk to me anymore. He shrugs nonchalantly and takes a deep swallow of his beer. And I know he hangs up every time you try to call. Doesn't he? My mouth works and I look away. He's right on the nose. Dad married his high school sweetheart, went to church every Sunday, and broke his back at a construction job. He taught me joinery, how to carve a chain from a stick of wood and how to frame a shed. He's a career military, retired now. A patriot. A good man. He doesn't deserve two troublemaking sons, both of whom are convicted felons now. He used to think I was a good man. But when I went down for Daniel after he beat the hell out of that banker, Dad didn't care that they had the wrong brother. After all, I didn't fight it. He never once called me when I was in jail or on probation, and after enough hang-ups, I gave up on calling him. Wow, that really did hit a nerve, didn't it? Daniel tugs on his pointed chin, his eyes full of sly mockery. So I was right. I don't know if he'd talk to me if I called him now. I haven't tried in years. I keep my voice neutral, ignoring the gutted feeling that thinking about Dad always leaves me with. That seems to surprise him. Thought you planned to go legit after we parted ways, get back in his good graces. There's no getting back in Dad's good graces after all the trouble you dragged me into. I blame Daniel for about 80% of it anyway. I could have said no. I could have run, could have let Daniel and the laughing boys hunt me. I could even have fought back and gotten my ass beat. No, probably not, he replies thoughtfully. But that cat's been out of the bag for a while, hasn't it? Just spit it out, Daniel. Why are you here? It occurs to me that if I grab the son of a gun, bash his head against the table a few times, drag him across the floor by one leg, and pitch him out into the snow, everyone else here would simply ask me what he did. But I don't. I'm just not that guy anymore. I'm here to take you back with me, he replies simply. I stare at him. Damn. But that's Daniel, all guts, no sense, and absolutely no honor. I thought he had disappointed me for the last time when he left me to rot in jail without paying my bail and fines. It seems I was wrong. No. He cocks his head. Wait, did you just tell me no? Do you have any idea who you're dealing with here, baby brother? I push my chair back and stand, stepping around the table, looming over him. He hasn't seen me since I was that scared kid headed into jail. He has no idea what the past 18 years have done to me. I was thrown into the pit, and I climbed back out with my fingernails. That changes a man. Do you? I ask him softly. It slowly seems to dawn on him that things have changed a bit. His eyes widen, and he goes quiet for a moment before smiling up at me. You're right, I do owe you big. And normally, I would leave you alone just like you want. But I need you down south, baby brother. I shake my head. No deal. I've got a life here now. I am not giving it up to follow you into the mouth of hell again. He starts to argue, and then his head snaps around to focus on the door as it opens, the bell on it ringing. His eyebrows go up, and I quickly turn to look. Oh shit. It's Julia. Beautiful, sweet Julia, bundled in her one good coat, a scarf covering her hair and throat and tucked into her collar. She looks around for me, and I wince. Crap. Not now. Not while Daniel is here. She sees me, and her face lights up. She takes a step in my direction, and then her face falls in confusion as she catches sight of Daniel. Quickly, she went to the bar instead, and I let out a small sigh of relief. I'll deal with her after I deal with my brother. I just hope he hasn't noticed that. Friend of yours? He asks almost teasingly. Shit. Well. A cute girl. What is she, 20? No wonder you don't want to leave. He gets up and starts sauntering past me, headed straight for Julia. I grab him by the arm and just stand there solidly. He stops short, and the sudden realization that he can't move past me or pull his arm free shocks his attention away from Julia. I look past him. She is watching us with a worried expression. What? He demands, getting a little loud. I just want to introduce myself. You are drunk and a jerk. She's a nice girl who doesn't need your kind of problems anywhere near her. Leave her alone. My voice drops to a growl at the last, and he gives me a shocked look. Holy shit, you really must like this piece of tail. He moves back to his chair. I let him go, and he sits down. Who is she? None of your damn business. He laughs. You know I'm gonna find out. My blood runs cold at his threat, and I lean down into his face. What you're gonna do is go back to New Orleans and leave me alone. I already did more for you than you ever deserved, just so they wouldn't lock you up and throw away the key. That was the last thing I'm ever doing for you. His smirk fades. I'm in serious need here. I was in serious need when I ended up in the system without anyone to visit me or throw me a lifeline. Nobody in the club, none of my family, not one of you so much as sent me a damn Christmas card. You want me to get you a Christmas card? Is that what this is about? His drunken bravado sets my teeth on edge. This is about you leaving. I rub the bridge of my nose. I gave you most of my life, Daniel, between the club and what happened. I'm done with that. You gonna shoot me for that like you used to threaten? Go right ahead. He gives me a mock look of shock. I wouldn't dream of harming my own brother, even if he is being a giant, ungrateful idiot who forgets who practically raised him. You get my point. Just go, Daniel. You're not wanted here. He scoffs and stands, doing his best to stare me in the eyes. So that's it, huh? You want me to do this the hard way? Because I can still do that. You talk about how you've built a life here. Well, that's fine. Maybe I'll just destroy every part of it, and then you won't have anything tying you here. There's ice in my veins now. My hands clench at my sides. You can try, I growl back. But you'll fail. And it'll cost you. He starts heading for the door, with me following right behind him, laughing hollowly the whole way. We'll see, he replies and looks back at Julia one last time before I practically shove him out the door.
Chapter 6. Julia.
I don't understand, I say to Aaron. My heart hurts, and the lambskin lining of my coat is scratchy against my back. I feel vulnerable and a little sick from watching the bizarre exchange between him and the other biker. Someone from his past? You want me to leave? Every time that man looked over at me and smirked, I felt a chill run down my back that made me pull my coat around me closer, like a layer of armor. I didn't feel comfortable with him here, with the way he was talking to Aaron or with the way Aaron reacted. I smelled trouble on that man, thick as body odor and beer fumes. Fortunately, he was only around for about 5 minutes before Aaron basically escorted him out the door. I sigh with relief once the door closes behind him, but it catches in my throat as I see the man walk over to one of the frosted windows and stand there outside, trying to peer in. Aaron comes over and tells me that I should leave. And I protest, of course. He doesn't seem to know what to say. Look, he starts, then coughs into his fist and glances at the window. Things just got complicated. I thought they were already complicated, I say quietly as the bartender brings me my Irish coffee. They are. But God knows I don't want you caught up in any of what just went on, so we're probably going to have to take a break from each other for a while. I'll still try to be around the church to help out, but we shouldn't associate. He speaks so reluctantly that my heartache eases a little. How long? I ask in a pained tone and his hand brushes mine, maybe on instinct. Just a few days. We probably need to cool off anyway. Another regretful look. But you already know that. No, I don't. I've never felt so sure about anything in my life. No regrets about this afternoon, Aaron. None. He sighs through his nose and nods. You're really selling yourself short, sweetheart. I'm trouble. I don't mean to be, but it follows me around. Now, I just want to hug him even more than I usually do. He's always the one to sacrifice for others. But I won't let him do it this time. Who is that man? That's Daniel, he replies in a falsely light tone, looking over at the window again. The man's creepy silhouette still stands there, his breath wearing through the frost. That's my brother. My eyes widen. Oh shit. He's warned me about his brother before. Aaron has told me a lot about himself, probably more than anyone else in town. It started back when he was drinking more and had just started to realize that he could tell me anything. The gang he was pulled into too young, the crimes he witnessed and had to play lookout for, Daniel's impulsiveness and violence. He told me about the day his brother beat a bank executive into a coma because the poor man panicked during a robbery and couldn't remember the safe combination. Daniel, who owed crippling debts to some terrifying people, flew into a rage out of desperation. Only Aaron restraining him had stopped Daniel from committing murder. The man, addled by terror and an anxiety disorder, got the two brothers mixed up in the lineup, insisting that Aaron attacked him. The police detective had refused to believe it. He had noticed Daniel's criminal record and Aaron's lack of one. Aaron took the fall anyway. He told me that he did it because Daniel was 2 felonies and was about to get life in prison without parole. I cried when I found out. Why is he here? I ask incredulously, keeping my voice low. He wants to take me back to New Orleans with him. He scratched his cheek, rubbing at his 5 o'clock shadow as his lips twisted in disgust. Back to the club. For keeps? How did they end up in New Orleans? I feel like I'm suddenly a step behind. I know I have no business expecting him to tell me every damn thing, but something crazy is going on, and I need help sorting it out in my head. The bartender brings him a single shot of whiskey, and he swallows it down like medicine. Daniel and the Laughing Boys couldn't hack it in the Northeast. So he led all 5 of the remaining members down the coast to the Big Easy 3 years ago. I only found out about it through one of the guys that left the club. And now they're having trouble in New Orleans, and he wants your help. No, absolutely not. There is no way I am putting up with him being dragged away when he's just starting to be happy again. Not when we're right on the brink of being together. That's pretty much it. He gets a regular coffee as his next drink. He's on duty after all, and I know that for him only the coffee is free. My brother knew where to look. I grew up here after all. So did he. The difference is I always wanted to come back to Phoenicia, and I made the mistake of admitting that. We have to get him away from here. I want to cry at the thought of Aaron leaving, and it makes me want to beat this guy's ass. But of course, I'm not really the type to do either. I would rather find some sane way of fixing the problem. You just let me take care of this situation, sweetheart. He's a drunk, he's violent, and he's not used to New York winters anymore. I don't think he'll be able to keep out of trouble, and I don't want you anywhere near him. His hand covers mine briefly, comfortingly. It makes me want to take him by the hand and lead him outside and down the street to his trailer. But he's at work, and I know I have to be patient. I suddenly feel stupid. He won't be free for hours, but when I left home, all I was thinking about was what I would do to him once he was done working. Maybe he's right, and I'm too damned young to be out here like this. And if I had not come, that creep would not know my face now, or know that I'm associated with Aaron, and that will probably cause even more issues for Aaron. He is already talking about a cooling-off period, even if it's short. What can I do? I ask him softly, brushing his fingers with mine. Don't let him get near you. Don't let him follow you home. Do you have your truck? His voice sounds harsh, full of worry. I blush. I walk down. It was almost clear out, and I was stiff from earlier, so I needed it. Crap. I really am naive sometimes. Though really, how could I have anticipated that a dangerous dirtbag from his past would be here? Shit. Okay. Can you get a friend to take you back? He glances at the window again. Daniel is pacing slowly, hands behind their back. My stomach flips and I nod. Good. I can't leave my post and take you back home right now. Okay. My heart's in my boots now. Stupid, I just wanted to see you. His smile looks too forced for my comfort. Normally, that wouldn't be a problem. But there's just too much going on. With this. He looks so tired. I've got to finish my shift without anything else crazy happening. I understand. I'll just stay right here until my ride picks me up. I swallow a lump in my throat and cover my unhappy look with a big gulp of coffee. He touches my back, leaving a tingling spot in its wake. Thanks, sweetheart. I'll catch up with you as soon as I can. He leaves me as I start looking through my phone to see what friends in town would still be up after 9, and I'm fighting tears. This isn't how things were supposed to go. There's only one thing in this world that I want just for me, and that's him. Cute cars, a rich lifestyle, and some boyfriend thrown at me by my father with his stamp of approval are all luxuries that I can live without. But more and more, it feels like I just can't live without Aaron. I'm starting on my second cup of coffee when the door opens, making me jump. It's not Daniel though, but chubby, lovable Dr. Whitman, decked out in a forest green coat. He smiles at me warmly as he approaches and stops by the bar stool that Daniel vacated. Is this seat taken? It is now. I have to force my smile as he settles onto it. How are you doing, doctor? I'm doing well, though I think I should warn you that it is going to be quite a snowy Christmas. He winks. But at least fewer people will be going hungry and cold than before. Yeah, about that, I venture carefully, grateful for the sudden and important distraction. Do you have any idea how much the company you hired actually sent over? I still can't quite believe that anyone wealthy would be so generous without any encouragement. I've never seen it before except with the Whitmans. But perhaps that's part of what makes them special. His smile becomes part wince. As I understand it, they were both early and generous. I apologize for the early part. I let my son make the arrangements this year, and he's always been a touch mischievous. I nod slowly, feeling vindicated. I knew it. Jack's responsible for all the mistletoe around. Or they're in it together. But I keep that thought to myself. It's okay, a whole lot of people now have food and fuel in time for Christmas and the storm. That's more important than anything else. Pass on my apology to your father, will you? The old man's tone is so gentle. I nod and feel my chin trembling. It's been a long day. I'm kind of emotional, especially after coming down here like this, making myself vulnerable to rejection, and walking right into drama that I never expected. Clearly, Aaron, who stands stiffly at his post by the door, didn't expect it either. Are you all right? Whitman asks. You seem rather sad for someone who was just talking about a stroke of luck. I press my lips together and look down. This old man is our own version of Grandpa Woodstock, another New York legend. Everyone confides in him. But this is something I can't even bring up with my own father. Not comfortably, anyway. I need to ask you something before I get into anything like that, I hedge, needing time. Are you responsible for the mistletoe all over town? I can't help but ask. I saw tons of it on the way up, one more over-the-top element of Christmas in Phoenicia, which only makes me suspect the Whitmans even more. There are bushels of the stuff strung up on the eaves of houses, on the awnings of businesses, in doorways, everywhere. His eyes twinkle as he accepts the change of subject. Do you like it? It got me my first kiss with a guy that first like, so yes. But I was wondering why you and Jack put that stuff up all over. His smile widens and I hesitate. You did put all those plants up, right? I never said that, he replies cagily. In fact, I neither set them there with my hands, nor paid for them with my money. Did Jack? What is going on? Whatever it is, he seems to be way too amused by all of this. I'm afraid that you would have to ask him, is his infuriating answer. But you aren't actually upset over some handfuls of mistletoe, are you? I hesitate. But then I look over at Aaron, who glances my way but stays impassive. Pain grips my heart and I shake my head. Well, the short version is, I've met the guy that first want to marry, and he loves me back. And thanks to the mistletoe trick, we kissed earlier. But the guy's older than me, he's got a past, and he doesn't think he deserves me. Neither does my father. I was about ready to just start dating the guy and face the consequences later. But now his dirtbag brother is in town, trying to make him go away with him forever. My voice gets a little squeaky at the end, and I stop to fight back tears. Oh dear. Well, that won't do at all. His brow furrows as he glances out the window at Daniel's silhouette. The man is starting to rub his arms and hunch over. It's amusing, but it doesn't make me feel much better. I'm really worried that this creep will blackmail him into leaving. Or do something worse. My friend is strong, but he's the kind of man who will sacrifice everything for someone he cares about. I can't let him leave to protect me. I need to find a way to help him stay. He looks over at Aaron as well, and then smiles knowingly. Have you told this man how you feel about him? I kissed him. I look at him in confusion. He chuckles. Oh, I understand. Kisses can mean many things, even between lovers. You need to tell him everything. Give him the reasons why you offer your heart. Give him a reason to stay so that he will never give up. I don't know if he's incredibly wise or drunk as hell and determined to sound profound. The whole town knows he has a weakness for schnapps, especially around the holidays. It works though. I know what I have to do suddenly, as if a puzzle piece has finally snapped into place. Thank you, I say quietly. That won't be easy to do, but I'll find a way. If I can. You're quite welcome. Now, as I understand it, you probably want a ride out of here so you can avoid that nasty little fellow on the sidewalk. He winks and I manage a smile. Thank you. Yes, I would. Daniel can kiss my ass. I am going to stay out of his way and work as hard as I can against his purposes by taking Whitman's advice. I try to sleep for a while after I get home. I manage a nap, still half in my clothes, the covers pulled up to my chin. Around midnight, my father stumbles past my door on the way to the bathroom and peers in as if confused by the open door. I pretend to be asleep and he moves on. Later, I roll over and look at my phone. It's 3:30 in the morning, half an hour to the last call. Dad won't be out of bed until it's time to clean up for late morning service. I shouldn't do this. But Whitman's words ring in my ears. The terrible sense that time is running out and that I have to act now to make sure that Aaron stays haunts me as I pull my coat, scarf, and gloves back on and stomp into my boots. I don't quite beat Aaron home. Fresh snow is scraped off on the steps leading up to his door, and his lights are on. I walk up to the door, steeling myself, and knock twice. I hear excited barking and then footsteps. A few moments later, the door opened, spilling warm air out onto my chilled face and stinging my skin. Aaron barely has his coat off, and his hair is still mussed from his hat. His eyes widen when he sees me. You shouldn't be here, he protests, and I just smile and brush past him into the trailer. Moose ambles up, thumping his tail. I give him a friendly scratch as Aaron sighs and closes the door. Damn it, Jules. I think I should be here, I insist softly. I think we have some unfinished business. We can't. I can't. He moves past me, settling onto the tiny brown built-in couch and dropping his shaggy head into his hands. I'm flattered as hell, but he starts. I scowl. Don't give me that. You want this as badly as I do. I know that I can put an end to this argument right away. In a way, he's not going to have much power to resist. Mostly because he won't want to, but as I move closer to him, and I see the bleak look in his eyes, I can't help but hesitate. I want him on board, without any kind of influence. Look, I say softly as I stand over him. I've had a crush on you since I first saw you, okay? Then you became my friend, but I never stopped wanting you. It's only gotten worse over time. He closes his eyes and tips his head back like I just slapped him. I wonder how he spent so long alone. How could any woman see that look and not want to hug him and make it better? Because he's big and scary looking? So is Moose, and he spends a quarter of his time being cuddled by small children. It's been that way for me too, he admits, and my heart aches at the desperation in the back of his eyes. I don't want anyone else ever. I want you. No lie. But I'm not good for you. You deserve. I deserve to make my own damn decisions about who I choose to be with, I reply insistently. I want to be with you. I want you to stay here and build your life here like you've been doing, but I want you to build it with me. You know we'd be great together, we always are. He stares at me in amazement. Please, I say softly as I walk right up to him, reaching over to run my hands through his shaggy hair. Don't let anyone get in the way. Not Daniel, not my father. We both want this, don't we? I want it, breathlessly. Even if it ends up hurting. I want him with me. He's in so much pain and he's so isolated. I want to fix it. I don't know much about relationships, but when you really want to sleep with a guy who makes you happier than anyone else, isn't that a good thing? Especially if you're both single and into the idea? That gets me a thin smile. Normally, yes. But you're forgetting that you're the preacher's daughter, that you're in training to replace him, and that in general, you're an angel while I'm... You're what, Aaron? I glare at him. If you say you're just like Daniel, you're going to catch hell for it. He holds up his hands, shaking his head. No, but I'm not great. Even though I didn't touch that guy they popped me for, I've broken the law a lot. I'm not innocent of wrongdoing. I was the club's lookout. I helped guard their clubhouse. I didn't go to that bank knowing Daniel planned to rob it, but I was still there. And I stood there too long yelling at my brother to stop, instead of stopping him. The guilt in his voice tells me that's the real reason he's still so ashamed, maybe even the reason he accepted the jail sentence. He didn't save an innocent man from his brother's fists. He was a bystander instead of a hero. And you think that I deserve someone who would jump in to protect me right away? No hesitation. He nods slowly. Yeah, I do. It's funny because you're one of two people in my life that I trust completely to do just that. Otherwise, I would never have fallen in love with you. He flinches away from my smile like he's staring at the sun, and I wait patiently until he looks back before going on. That big bad part of you that you think would scare me off only comes out when you need it. I don't know how you were when you were 24, but I know that that part of you would jump to protect me or any other innocent person around here now. He can't speak right now or look at me, so I bend over and hug him tight because I can't hold back anymore. He wraps his arms around my waist and pulls me against him, burying his face against my chest. The feel of his breath against my skin, even through the weave of the scarf, makes me tingle. I tremble slightly, knowing he is about to discover a secret I've carried most of the night just for him. If anything can pull him from his grief and doubt, it's that. Maybe I am a better man now than I was then, he mumbles. But I still don't deserve you, baby. If you want me, you should leave that decision up to me, I murmur soothingly, stroking his hair. It's my choice. It's yours too. Respect that. And then I let out a little laugh and finally unleashed my confession. Besides, I'm not perfect. I did kind of come here to be with you. He blinks up at me slowly, astonishment gradually replacing all signs of self-loathing. Well, damn. I lean down and kiss him, and he squeezes me tightly against him before his mouth runs down from mine, sliding over my throat. My eyes roll closed. Oh yes. Then his mouth moves lower and he unties the scarf and throws it aside to get at more of my skin, and stops dead. He notices, finally, that there is no collar to unbutton. The skin beneath is bare.
Chapter 7. Julia.
Holy cow, Aaron mumbles as I slowly tease open the coat to reveal a strip of naked skin that runs down to my navel. It took all my nerve and willpower to walk out my door like this, and the look on his face is worth it. I'm still blushing and hoping he's too captivated by the view to notice. You were really committed to this idea, he murmurs in a tone of delighted shock. I have to press my lips together to keep from giggling. Deep breath. Well, yeah. I barely know anything about this sort of thing, but I thought I could get your attention by being a little creative. Because otherwise, what would a man with so much more experience than me want with a boring young woman who knows nothing? He looks up at my face and chuckles warmly, shaking his head. You're blushing like crazy, baby. Yeah, well, I say a little more seriously, if I have to go out of my comfort zone to catch your attention, it's worth it. He swallows. You've got all my attention. Always have. I nod, feeling some of my embarrassment fade. Good, because if it had been 5 degrees colder, then I would have ended up frozen. Oh my no, none of that. I don't want anything bad happening to any other part of you. For emphasis, he punctuates his words with fervent kisses between the two parts we'd just been discussing. My knees get wobbly at once. Oh boy. It must have taken a lot of strength for him to pull back from what I hope will become his favorite pillows. But he looks up at me again and says, Wait, are you using your body to convince me to stay here? Kind of sinful, isn't it? Half amused, half dubious. I'm here because I love you, and you make me weak in the knees, you big dope. I bend forward to kiss his forehead, and he groans as my body ends up in his face. I really want more than intimacy out of this, and I think you do too. I do, he mumbles. I'm crazy for you. I'll blow my savings on a ring tomorrow if you want. Don't you dare. I don't want anything that fancy. My heart is absolutely singing, and from the way he's practically vibrating out of his clothes, I suspect it's the same for him. I do pause a moment though. Wait. Are you just saying that because I'm all over you? Not just, he says dreamily, his voice rather muffled. Okay, just checking. Then he gets back to kissing me there, and his hands slide the coat all the way off of my shoulders, dropping it to the floor. I gasp, and he holds me steady as my knees wobble. I wrap my arms around his shoulders and focus on staying upright while he runs his mouth all over my bare skin. His breath is warm, his unshaven chin a little scratchy, and his lips softer than I expected. Now and again, the hot dart of his mouth seeks me out as he holds me, at all my pulse points. Shortly after, he collapses back onto the bed, gasping for air as I wobble over him, my muscles going slack. He catches me and pulls me into his arms. I lie on his heaving chest and feel every problem in the world drift wonderfully away.
Chapter 8. Aaron.
I watch Julia sleep, my whole body still shaking. That's all right. The trailer's well insulated, and there's no one around for a half-acre on either side. And as I lie there, feeling so light and loose that I could float off the mattress, I think to myself, I could go for another round of that. Every night, for the rest of my life. It's more a taste of heaven than a man like me deserves, what she's offering, and I'm starved for it. I still don't feel like I'm good enough for her. I'm not sure that any mortal man could be, but then again, I'm biased. And since she keeps insisting on pushing the issue, I figured I had better just find a way to be an even better man. I brush stray hairs off her forehead as I stare down at her. I knocked her out. Poor baby. I didn't even mean to. But that look of astonishment she wore before her eyes rolled closed told me volumes about her inexperience. I'm humbled that she chose me to be her first. There you go, I purr in her ear. There you go, baby. I love you. I tuck my comforters around us again and drift off with her. The last thing I sense as I fall asleep is Moose hopping up to lie contentedly across the foot of the bed. I'm still feeling a bit drowsy and content after a wonderful night, so it takes me a moment to get out of bed when Moose starts barking. It must be later. There's faint light coming in from outside. I can hear the anger in my dog's bark as I yank on my clothes and grab my bow. Then I hear the thumps of someone trying to bust into my garage door, and I know. Screw Daniel. I come walking out with Moose on a leash in case my brother has a gun. Daniel is there, trying to get in my shed door with a crowbar. He's getting nowhere against the heavy-duty lock. Idiot. He sees me and then sees Moose, and his eyes get very wide again. Once again, the guy's been drinking, and it's messing with his judgment. What are you doing, Daniel? I demand. It's not even dawn yet, well below freezing. My spit crackles as it hits the grass, and I walk in his direction quickly, the crossbow I'm not supposed to have pointed at him with my free hand. He drops the crowbar and steps back. I told you I'd make trouble for you until you agreed to come with me, he stammers, his eyes glued to Moose, who has stopped barking and is now just growling. And I told you that was a stupid idea, Daniel. I've got you on my security cameras breaking and entering. I point up at the deer cams I have hidden in the pines on either side of the shed entrance. You'd set the pigs on me. They'll put me away for life. Moose's growling drops an octave and jumps several decibels in response to Daniel raising his voice, and my brother presses back against the shed door. Now you listen here, you little shit. Back when I was an idealistic kid whose life you wrecked, I thought I owed you because we were family. But then I went in the hole for 10 years and served 4 years parole for a crime I was trying to stop you from committing. He holds his hands over his head, eyes huge now as if suddenly realizing that he's put himself into deep, deep shit, and there's very little he can do about it but beg. Hey, now come on. I'm desperate here. I need your help. Don't you get it? Oh, I get it. You've screwed up in yet another state, and you want me around to keep you safe from however many hoods down in New Orleans want to kick your sorry ass. But as I was saying, I've already gone above and beyond for your dumpster fire ass, and that was the last time. I advance on him, short-leashing Moose so he can't take a chomp out of my brother before I have my say. If I had gone down for something I'd actually done, that would be one thing. But even all of that was shit you dragged me into. I owe you nothing. In fact, you owe me. And the credit store is closed, brother mine. Buzz off. He swallows, taking a deep, shuddery breath. You know, I know you have me on camera trying to get at your bike, but you're also on camera with a crossbow, and you've got a felony record just like me now. His eyes glitter. I stare at him coldly, unable to believe that this dumb son of a gun is still pushing me. Okay, fine, we're at a Mexican standoff over that. You still can't really mess with me. You've got nothing on me that can force me to leave. The door to the trailer clicks open, and Julia walks out sleepily. Her hair is mussed, her eyes are drowsy, and she has a love bite showing where her scarf is askew. My eyes widen slightly. Crap. Daniel looks between her and me, and a slow grin breaks across his face. Yeah, I do. I've been asking around, brother mine. Isn't that the preacher's 20-year-old virgin daughter? 21, I say defensively as she sees us and freezes. And not a virgin anymore, I'll bet, he laughs, and my heart sinks.
Chapter 9. Julia.
What do we do? I can't quite keep the panic out of my voice. I've just made it that much easier for Daniel to uproot Aaron from here. All Daniel has to do is tell my father, and even if Dad doesn't drive Aaron out of town, he'll probably make Aaron so uncomfortable that he'll flee on his own. I'm finding out the hard way that nothing kills a good afterglow, like being caught by the wrong person. But I'll be damned if I let some drunk, corrupt bastard mess up my future with Aaron. Well, either I find my brother and kick his ass before he can talk to your dad, and maybe I'll go to jail for it. Or I let him spill the beans to your dad, and I probably get run out of town. He sounds so frustrated that I feel like a complete idiot. I got him into this. We're cuddled together for a few stolen moments on his couch before I have to hurry home and grab a nap before Dad gets up. Let me help. I can reason with my father. He shakes his head. How the hell are you planning to do that? I'll find a way, okay? Besides, it's better that he hears about our relationship from me than from some horrible jerk who is just saying stuff to drive us apart. My voice shakes as I plead with him. He frowns and folds his arms. I certainly think we had better warn your father and some others about Daniel being in town. Not the deputy, though. Earl will just think I invited Daniel here and that things went south. Darn it. Earl. I sigh. I'm getting sick of prejudiced people, even if they generally mean well. One day, I'll get every last one of them to stop judging people they barely know. Honey, you're not going to be able to work miracles, he says sadly, but I shake my head. I believe people around here can be better, or I wouldn't want to take over my dad's job. I look him firmly in the eye. Meanwhile, I'll go home and warn Dad about Daniel. If we're lucky, maybe people will be madder at him for stirring things up during the holidays than they will be at you for having a shitty brother. I kiss him goodbye, aware of his taste in my mouth, his scent all over me. The little sore spots where he's marked me, and the melting warmth deep in my belly are souvenirs from our time together. I feel like I'm carrying him with me, and it gives me strength on the dark cold walk home. Strange things are happening in this town, and I have no idea how to take some of it. I don't mind pranks, windfalls of food, even the odd blizzard. But a drunken older brother, who is scheming to take away my man. I can't wait to see the back of that bastard Daniel. I'm worried I won't notice him if he's following me on the walk back, and I take a circuitous route just to make sure there's no one behind me. I'm walking back down the hill toward our church when I hear a scuffle up ahead. I carefully move up to the corner and peek around it, and see Daniel getting his butt kicked. Not by Aaron, though. The woman in question is a tall, statuesque redhead, way underdressed for the cold, and currently beating Daniel over the head with her Fendi bag while screaming at him at the top of her lungs. Lights are already going on in the houses nearby. What the heck? Just give me your purse and stop making problems. Take it then. She thwacks him with it so hard that it sounds like she's got a brick stowed in her little purse. Then she yanks out an honest-to-God canister of bear mace and blasts him with it. I just stand there staring. Oh my. Who is this crazy city woman, and where did you find her, just in time for this guy to get a much-needed stiletto heel up his butt? Daniel goes down, yelling and holding his face. The redhead starts stalking off. I'm still hesitating about stepping in when Earl, out cruising the town for lost drunks, bleeps his cruiser siren and pulls up to the biker. I draw back behind the corner, blinking slowly. Then I call up Aaron. Hey, sweetie. Before you go back to sleep, I think we won't have to worry about your brother for a few days. I leave him laughing as I walk the rest of the way home. The reprieve is more than welcome. It means Christmas without interruption. It means that if we're very lucky, Earl and the guys at the state police will check warrants in New York and New Orleans, and that will be the last we see of Daniel. It really looks like Aaron's luck has changed. And I know that mine sure has. Dad is still passed out in his room when I get home. I'm slack from exhaustion and physical satisfaction, and I have to wrestle with a faint sense of guilt as I walk past his door. But as I change into my flannels, most of what I feel is contentment. We'll find a way to work this out. God willing, we'll even find a way to get Dad on board. I don't shower. I go to bed with the scent of Aaron on my body, and fall asleep smiling. The next 2 days are a busy, happy blur. Holiday festivities mix with storm preparation, and by the time our small Christmas dinner comes around, both my father and I are ready for a reprieve. Unfortunately, the break we get is thanks to a big Christmas snowstorm. Are all the storm windows in place? My father frets a little. Is the snow removal gear inside? It won't do us any good if it's out in the shed. It's fine, Dad, I handled it all. Compared to my dad, I'm so calm that I could be floating on a cloud right now. I snuck out to Aaron's trailer early this morning again, and we made love until we both couldn't move. I would be doing that again tonight, but the damn storm's coming in, 2 to 3 feet of snow expected in 24 hours. At least it gives me an excuse to sleep in tomorrow. I come to stand with my dad and look out the window at the big flakes starting to swirl past outside. The sky is leaden, the wind keeps rising to a whine in the eaves, and my father tenses up each time the windows rattle. So this brother of Aaron's made bail? He's trying to have a conversation, but I can tell from the topic that he's looking for reassurance. Yes, he did, down in Kingston. I know it wasn't Aaron who paid it. I wish he was here. I would just feel safer with my man around now that his brother is loose, even if he's an hour's drive away in a growing blizzard. Are you sure? He eyes me worriedly. Pretty sure. No one's madder about that creep being out than Aaron. He doesn't want Daniel anywhere near here. Well, he'll probably get his wish, at least for the night. Only a crazy person would be out driving in this. My father rubs his face. What did they say the chances are of a blackout? We have 3 generators now, and Aaron's bringing by 2 more in a little while. I just got off the phone with him. If people end up blacked out at length, we can have heat, light, phone charging stations, and food for them for 3 days. I touch my father's arm. He's starting to answer when someone knocks hard on the front door. That must be him now. I cry out excitedly and run down the stairs. It's a stupid mistake. The kind that makes you wish you could rewind the world by 30 seconds and make a different choice. I'm inexperienced in love and have underestimated the determination of a crazy person with a vendetta. None of those things are really an excuse. I throw the door open before checking through the peephole, and before I can do anything, Daniel is shoving his way inside.
Chapter 10. Aaron.
I'm doing the most exhilarating mental calculations in the world as I stick both generators in my sidecar. If all she wants is an inexpensive ring, I can go down to the city and buy a nice one as soon as we're through with this storm. I can do that on this next paycheck without dipping into savings much. Moose looks at me and whines. Sorry, big guy, no room for you in the cargo. Once he's seen to and shut up in my trailer with the heat running, I take the bike down to the church. I'm determined to make sure that whatever happens with this storm, Julia and her dad will have power, heat, and light to spare, no matter how many people shelter there. As I drive, I'm going over my speech. Reverend, I have to come clean with you. Your daughter and I are crazy about each other, and I want to marry her. Simple, straightforward. It's probably best. Especially since if I ask for his blessing now, it won't matter what Daniel says anymore. I'm starting to feel almost optimistic about my talk with the Reverend when I see a car parked almost sideways in the church driveway. It's a brown sedan, battered, one tire flat, and the side window cracked. I stare at it, knowing it is a stolen and drunkenly parked car when I see one. Daniel, you son of a gun. I park my bike and break into a run through the snow, thinking fast. I know the grounds, I know the building. I know that the storm doors on the house's basement coal chute need to be replaced and will be unlocked. I run around the side of the church toward the house, headed straight for that rust-colored slanted door. I pull it open as quietly as I can and scramble down the steps beyond. The basement is black, but I always have a light on my belt. I don't have any weapons, I think, as I sneak up the basement steps and listen at the door. I can hear faint voices, probably coming from the living room by the sound of them. I quickly push the door open and sneak into the kitchen. For a moment, I am tempted. The knife block on the counter is within arm's reach. I could grab the biggest knife or the cleaver. I could end this in a very final way. I could get rid of my brother in front of the love of my life and her pastor father, who is already nervous around me. Absolutely not. I'll find another way. As I make my way down the hall, I hear the conversation going on, and my heart sinks. This isn't a family meeting, Julia insists. This is a hostage situation. You're not wanted here. The only reason we have to sit here is because if we don't, you're going to beat the hell out of both of us. You said it yourself. That's right, Daniel laughs. I did. See, Reverend, my poor stupid brother is going to leave with me tonight, and we're going down to New Orleans where the Snow Queen isn't excessively busy and under the influence. If he doesn't, I'll make his life a living hell. Starting with rearranging his little girlfriend's face. How dare you talk about my daughter this way? The Reverend sounds ready to fall over in fear, but he's still standing up for Julia. I admit, I'm a little proud of him. Outside, the wind is starting to really howl. It worries me, but nowhere near as much as the idea of my brother and Julia in the same room together. I do a quick check around the door frame and see Daniel sitting with his back to me, idly holding Julia by the hair. His coat is off in a pile on the floor. He doesn't have a gun. He does have his hands on my sweetheart, though. You tell your daddy what you've been doing, you little tramp. Don't make a liar out of me, or I'm gonna start knocking your teeth out. Let go of me, you creep. Dad already knows I'm in love with Erin. Daniel lets out a laugh as her sharp cry of shock, or maybe pain, cuts off her words. But does he know you're sneaking around behind his back sleeping with Erin? Oh damn, I think, wincing. Everyone's voice erupts at once, exclamations, arguing, total chaos. I see my chance and bolt into the room. Julia turns and sees me coming. Her face lights up, and she immediately elbows Daniel in the side and pulls away from him when his grip loosens. I crash into him from behind a second later. Daniel yells in shock as I lift him entirely off his feet. What the hell? Sorry I'm late, I tell the Reverend and Julia as my brother kicks and wiggles in my grip. I was having trouble fitting both the generators in my sidecar. How the hell did you get inside the house? Daniel is still struggling like a kid, but he's getting nowhere. I've worked on the place for years, I reply coolly. I look over at the Reverend. I'm also sorry for any trouble this jackass has caused. He's on his way out the door. The Reverend gets over his shock quickly and heaves a sigh of relief. Yes, please get him out of my house. Wait. Come on now. Do you really want to take this guy's side? He's a felon. We're in the same club. Daniel probably weighs a ton as he twists around, struggling, but I'm so angry I can't feel it. Instead, I'm fighting the urge to break his damn back. We were in the same club, I growl. I gave up my freedom to save yours, and now I'm done with you and that life. Oh, shut the hell up. You chose to be a damn martyr. You chose to take the fall in my place. Yeah, I told you to do it, and I promised to take care of you while you were inside and to leave you alone once you were free. But you were the one who was dumb enough to believe me. His taunts hit home hard. My muscles start to tighten around his ribs. I can literally break him over my knee if I want. Julia and her father are watching me. I stop tightening my grip. So it's true, the Reverend muses. He accepted incarceration so that you would remain free when he did nothing to that man. I told you, Julia sighs and goes quiet, shaking her head. Look, Daniel waves his hands, still looking ridiculous, dangling from my grip. We're both criminals. We belong together, well away from decent people like you and your lovely daughter. If you're gonna throw me out, throw him out as well. My heart sinks. I sigh and look at the Reverend. I'll leave if you want. He scowls at me, surprising me. Don't you dare. We have a lot to talk about. As for him, I'm calling Earl to come pick him up. He walks over to the coffee table and picks up his phone. His hands are shaky, but he seems all right. I nod and cart Daniel over to the door. You can wait outside, I tell him, doing my job even though it's my night off. But wait, my jacket, he protests as Julia gets up to unlock the door and open it for me. Come on, man, I'll freeze. Earl will be up in 5 to 10 minutes. This town is tiny, I reply patiently as I step out onto the porch. It's 10 degrees out, he yells in a final protest. Exactly. I pitch him off the porch and into a snowbank. He lands safely but sinks deep enough that he's stuck flailing like a turtle on its back. I go back inside and shut the door on him. Good riddance to that relic of my past, now to face my future. I square my shoulders and walk back in to face the Reverend. Everything I rehearsed has fled my mind, but I still manage to look him in the eyes. I'll explain everything, I start, but he shakes his head. I don't want to hear it, he replies in a low, tired voice. I know I misjudged you in many ways. But whether Daniel's accusation about you and my daughter is true or not, we're not talking about that. I already have a headache. Julia sits quietly in a chair nearby, looking both nervous and determined. What should we talk about then, Reverend? We're going to talk about the fact that you are not laying another hand on my daughter unless you lead with a ring. That is one thing I will never compromise on, and if Julia weren't so wildly in love, she'd likely agree. Julia speaks up. Actually, I do agree. The Reverend blinks at her. Oh. Then he looks between the two of us. And you? Are you ready to commit to her and wear a symbol of that commitment? Damn. This is all happening fast. Except it isn't. We've been in love for years. We've only just started finally admitting it and doing something about it. I guess I'm just surprised that you changed your mind so fast, I admit. I haven't changed my mind. Not entirely. But when I discovered that Julia was in love with you, I prayed for a sign. Tonight I got it. He takes a deep breath. You had every reason to run in here and do some violence to your brother that would silence him and vindicate you. He just taunted you more. And while he confirmed that you truly are a better man than he will ever be, he also admitted just how little he valued the biggest sacrifice of your life. The Reverend goes over to the china cabinet and fishes out 3 snifters and a bottle of brandy. He pours one for each of us as he goes on. You did not avenge yourself. You just subdued him and got rid of him. Outside we can see flashing red and blue lights as Earl picks up my lightly chilled brother. For the first time in a long time, it doesn't make me sick inside to see signs of a cop around. I can't claim to be a better guy than I was, and then not act like one. Well, I'm glad you did. He coughs into his fist and starts passing out glasses. Now, I am going to have a nice brandy, and then go to bed because I have absolutely had it with this evening. I expect you two to behave while under my roof. Yes, Reverend. I chuckle as Julia, wearing a look of deep relief, comes to sit beside me. We clink glasses and I take a welcome drink. It's going to be a test of my willpower to stay out of bed with my new love until the storm is over and I can buy her a ring. But her father is right, it's what she deserves. The next year is going to be amazing. I can just tell. Even if the rest of the year is full of storms, we'll weather them together. Her hand slips into mine as her father turns to put the bottle away, and I give it a squeeze. Now I will have 2 things to thank God for every morning. I'm looking forward to it.
The end. Sneak peek for Thankful. We hope you enjoyed listening to Lucky's Naughty Angel by Michelle Love and Scarlett King. Please listen to a sneak peek for Thankful by Michelle Love. Thankful, a secret baby romance audiobook. Chapter 1. Karen.
Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you're having a great day. Please excuse me while I wash down some painkillers with my wine. I'm so exhausted from cooking. I made a turkey with trimmings, green bean and mushroom casserole, salad, pumpkin pie and apple pizza, my creations and at my expense. I cooked and cleaned the entire day and cooked some more, all in the kitchen of my tiny apartment. The trash is out, my studio is spotless. 5 guests pack my second-hand dining table, as I finally settle down to eat as well. Thank God it's done. I reflect with a sigh, my feet aching as much as my head after all the effort. I smile at my companions. This is the last dish, my friends. Thanks for waiting. At least I have a sense of accomplishment to ease my exhaustion and frustration. My place looks great. Mostly because I spent time scrubbing it and picking up empty beer cans and dirty plates. With its impressionist prints and soft lavender walls, it looks good enough for entertaining, even if petite. I'm determined to enjoy it as much as I can, but that might be difficult. My boyfriend Terry is drunk at the dinner table for the 5th holiday in a row. He's been here all day, taking up my couch and making more clutter for me to clean up. His only contribution to Thanksgiving dinner has been 3 six-packs of watery lager, 2 of which he's already sucked down by himself. His only interaction with me today, longer than "get me a sandwich," was his complaint when I was too busy to have a quickie before the guests arrived. His floppy, unkempt, reddish curls hide his sullen little black eyes as he hunches over his plate. He's been quiet and resentful since I pointed out that taking some of the workloads would give me time to help, as he calls it, before the guests showed up. "You gonna help or what?" That's the mating call of Terry Branham. The logic escaped him, or he was too lazy. Apparently, even intimacy isn't worth stuffing a turkey or washing dishes to old Terry. No wonder he still lives with his mother. As I watch him shoveling food into his mouth while occasionally giving me a morose glance, I feel myself quietly, finally, reach the end of my patience. I'm not even sad about it. It's more a sense of resignation, even relief. You know what? It's been 18 months of negotiating, reasoning, warning, imposing consequences, and getting nowhere with this immature, jobless, whiny drunk. I'm not a martyr. I'm done. Tonight, after the guests go home, I'll tell him. It's better to spend Christmas alone than let him mess up another holiday. I will probably spend it alone, or nearly. Most of the guests are his family members since I'm not in contact with mine, except for my sister, who sits next to me, insistently loading my plate. She barely came into town, or I would have had my backup for cooking earlier. Samantha is everything I've never managed to be. She's a successful painter with her own gallery in San Francisco. She has a family waiting back there for her, and she's confident and beautiful. Elegant, stylish, and tall, she looks like a model in her dark trim suit, her blonde hair straightened and dyed platinum to bring out our family's blue-green eyes. Meanwhile, here I am, barely managing to tame my tawny curls into a messy updo, dressed in second-hand green velvet that I altered myself. "Great spread, sis," Samantha says with a rakish smile. "Now get some food in your stomach. You must be wiped after working all day with no help." "I agree, this is quite delicious," another voice comments from the other end of the table. "It's smooth and cultured, with just that touch of the Carolinas to always make my toes curl." The same goes for the man speaking them. "My compliments," continues Terry's cousin with a slow smile, his chocolate-colored eyes twinkling. And suddenly, half of my exhaustion is forgotten. Time stops for a moment, and I catch my breath as his warm, gentle gaze holds mine hypnotically. His name is James Beaumont, and he's such an amazing dish. I can't believe he shares any genes with Terry. And I've never wanted to be with anyone more. I met him last Thanksgiving at Terry's mother's ramshackle bungalow, while we were choking down dry turkey and some mess of orange goop and marshmallows she called sweet potatoes. She spent the whole meal whining about how tough it was to achieve by herself, with her son and husband sourly devouring the results. Already somewhat nauseated by the bad food and sympathetic to anyone who dealt with 2 Terrys, I offered to cook next year. After supper, the incredibly attractive guy with razor-cut auburn hair and amazing eyes slipped up to me, not one drop of gravy on his bespoke charcoal suit. He stood out among his relatives like a gold watch gleaming in a weedy yard. One look in his eyes, and I forgot Terry was 4 feet away. He introduced himself as James, Terry's cousin, and quietly thanked me for taking the duty next year. I invited him along with the others, of course, and was happier than I should have been when he agreed. I spent half the night talking to him, and had sizzling dreams about him every night for over a week afterward. "Thanks," I say shyly, and his lips quirked. "Yeah, thanks for making good on your promise. It's not like I can get that from either of these two." Terry's mother, Caroline, is heavy-set and tiredly pretty, with the same russet curls as her son. His father is an older version of him, aside from his hair being straight, thin, and gray blonde. The son glares. The father just keeps shoving food into his mouth as if he's at a 4-star buffet. I'm not sure if he's hard of hearing or just doesn't give a shit. Maybe he's just this desperate for real food. "Don't you be a pain too, Mom?" "I'm already getting that from my so-called girlfriend," Terry growls angrily, glaring daggers at me. "Oh damn. Now what? Is he drunk enough to bring up our relationship in front of his mother?" If he does, I'm not showing him any mercy. What did she do? Ask you to wash a dish? Then, his mother and Terry are off bickering at each other, while I try to focus on eating. Samantha scoffs. Why I married a chick in a nutshell, she mutters in my ear. I give her a tight, rueful smile. Samantha is bi, and doesn't seem to fully grasp sometimes what it's like to only want men. She also likes to forget that women can be awful too, since she married a good one. Yeah, I sigh back a moment before draining my wine glasses. I reach for the bottle to get a refill, as Terry's mom rips into him about his hygiene. I'm done. She looks relieved. Good. And just like that, she's on to something more pleasant, trying to distract me. So, how's the latest decorating project? I stop at half a glass and set the bottle down. I made rent and bills with it. Barely. How I wish that I was rich. That makes me glance over at James again, sitting there exuding class and money, like he doesn't belong with the rest of his kin. He's calmly trying to diffuse the argument, though he comes down solidly on Mom's side. Thanks, James. At least someone in that family prefers reason to arguing. I wonder how awkward these gatherings are for him, having to deal with people acting so beneath him. He always seems so calm and poised, like nothing rattles him. I wish I knew his secret. Small potatoes again, huh? What was it this time, another baby room? Samantha shakes her head and lays a hand on my shoulder. A preschool. She just didn't have much money. I'm young and hungry for work, and Annabelle was a good client. You gotta stop selling yourself short, honey. You're never gonna get out of student loan debt taking small jobs. She looks over at Terry in annoyance. Hey! It's Thanksgiving. Quit whining at your poor mom. I tense up at once. One of my million problems with Terry is his temper. But then I think, what the hell does it matter? I'm breaking up with him anyway. He immediately glares at Samantha. Mind your own business. I'd love to, but you're too damn loud for anyone to avoid your business. She gives him an overly sweet grin, and he turns a few shades redder. I don't have to put up with, he starts, and his mother slaps her hand against the tabletop hard enough to shake it. Terry. You don't get to mooch your whole life and then complain when people point it out. Now shut up and let's eat. I'm glad for the backup, but it's too late. Terry has had too much beer, and the fury in him wants to make a mess of things. You started it, he snaps. And now I'm angry. Dear God, Samantha sighs. Nobody cares, Terry. Oh, shut up, you man-hating tramp. Terry splutters, and it humiliates me. So much that I go from I'm breaking up with him all the way to what the hell did I ever see in this bozo? There are a million reasons, but what it boils down to is the same damn thing Samantha was poking at me about. I settle for too little. And I don't care enough about how it hurts me until it affects someone close to me. But now it has, and I was pissed to begin with. You watch your damn mouth when you're talking to my sister, I hiss, and Terry freezes. I've never been anything but kind and firm with this man baby, probably kinder than I should have been. But you don't insult the one person in my family that still talks to me. Babe, what's gotten into you? He asks in a deeply worried voice as I stand up. You, I reply as everyone goes quiet. I can feel the room hold its breath. Samantha looks like she's gleefully anticipating a total bloodletting of this fool's ego, and I know why. There are consequences once I'm past my limit. Terry just rocketed past it and kept going. You've gotten into me, Terry. I told you what would happen if you messed up another holiday with me. I stare at him coldly while all the color drains from his weak-chinned face. Wait, come on. I helped. I brought beer. He's blinking at me in blank horror as if a pod person has replaced his sweet, patient girlfriend. The sweet, patient girlfriend had already warned him that she was running out of patience with him. Let us eat our food in peace, I growl, still staring unblinkingly into his eyes as he wilts faintly. Next to me, Samantha chokes on her wine. He stares back at me nervously, then grabs his fork and stuffs a bite of food in his mouth. He's already muttering rebelliously under his breath, but that's a lot easier to ignore. For now, anyway. So, you're an interior decorator? James asks, catching my eye again. I feel warmth run through me and nod silently. I might have a job or two for you that would be higher end. I'll be happy to discuss it with you after supper. The good, juicy turkey I've roasted turns to sand in my mouth. I swallow with a great effort and nod, and the corners of his eyes crinkle with amusement. Good. Don't let me forget now, he says with an almost gleeful tone. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see Terry watching us. James notices it as well and looks even more amused. I catch my breath, feeling like I'm on the brink of something. It should scare me, but instead, I find myself excited. What is this man offering me besides a job? I've never really wanted a normal life. I've always wanted to be part of something extraordinary. Some kind of adventure. Maybe even a wild affair. But instead, I've ended up settling for what I can get, time and again. Low-paying jobs, guys like Terry. One look at James, and I suddenly want to take crazy risks, visit exotic places, and drink wine costing my entire paycheck for a single glass. Sitting across the table, Terry stares at us with increasing intensity. He misses everything, including my growing unhappiness with him. Unexpectedly, I'm talking to another man about a totally neutral subject, and he's laser-focused on it. Another charming habit of Terry's, he does very little to keep me, yet he's still horribly jealous. It's another way he exhausts my patience, and I have none left. Samantha pokes me gently in encouragement, and I finally smile. I'd love to trade up to a better man. Are you single? Paying class of clientele. His smile vaguely broadens. Lovely. Oh damn it. Terry explodes, jumping from his seat and leaning aggressively over me. Are you gonna hit on my cousin, right in front of me? What the hell are you talking about? His mother snaps incredulously. She didn't do a thing. They were talking business. What, are you jealous of James now? Who the hell wouldn't be, the rich jerk? Bad enough you drag him around to every family gathering, like he's your son instead of your sister's. My eyes widen as I look between them. James is wincing and covering half his face. Samantha is chomping away at her food like it's a bucket of popcorn, and she's getting good seats at a midnight movie showing. Terry's dad is going for thirds. I warned you twice, Terry, I say in a low, hard voice. This is it. In my life, I have never been more elated than deciding not to give boyfriends my apartment key after the first break-in. Warned me? Warned me what, tramp? You were so busy with all this stupid cooking that you wouldn't even get me off today. He's on a full-blown rant, blissfully unaware that he's sawing the floor out from under himself. I stare at him as he splutters on, agitated. You frigid tramp, you know it wouldn't have even taken you 2 minutes. Silence descends upon the table with a grave heaviness. Terry's father drops his fork onto the table with a clatter. His mother stares at her son wide-eyed, lips trembling. James has a coughing fit, his handsome face flushes, tears gathering at the corners of his eyes. Terry's mug slowly goes from purple to white as it dawns on him what he just said in front of God, his parents, and the rest of us. In that same moment, as the instant regret takes over, Samantha loses it completely and nearly falls out of her chair laughing. I observe Terry, considering the way he's left his well-deserving butt wide open, and say in a cold voice, "You said it." I didn't. But after tonight, it's not my dilemma anymore. What the hell are you saying? He demands. His whiny, defensive baby needs a nap tone sets my teeth on edge. James sighs heavily. Cousin, if you want a prayer of saving your relationship or any degree of face, you should quit now. Terry's head snaps around, his dull black eyes turning to slits. For one precious moment, it seems like he's going to restrain himself. Instead, he opts to really wreck things. He grabs the edge of the table and literally tries to flip it onto me while we're all seated and in the middle of Turkey Day dinner. Screw you, he yells, inflamed as he struggles to lift one end. Hey, knock it the hell off. I yell at him. His mother swears at him, and even his father joins as his overfilled plate spills over. Terry shakes his head like a stubborn kid, his face sweaty, eyes tightly shut and teeth clenched. He tries again, letting out a feeble grunt of effort. That's when I realize that someone else is holding the table down far more firmly than Terry can lift. James, with a frigidly annoyed look on his face. "You're spilling my wine," he warns his cousin. That's it. I stand up and walk over to Terry. "We're done. Get out of my apartment." That stops him cold. He blinks at me as if shocked his attempt to bulldoze a Thanksgiving dinner in the middle of a tantrum has consequences. "But you're so charming. You can't just throw me out." "Well, I sure as hell can," his mother growls, getting up and pulling his battered blue puffer jacket out of the closet and throwing it at him. "You're embarrassing the crap out of me. Go wait in the damn car, or you won't have a home to come back to." Terry looks around at us, drunken puzzlement on his face, wondering why we're picking on him. Then he slowly takes the coat and turns to the door. Once he slumps out, she sighs and smiles at me apologetically. I'm sorry he's such a brat. Discipline has always been a problem for him. She cuts her gaze toward her husband, who is scooping food into his mouth once more. I take a deep breath and force a smile at her. "Let's just finish this feast," I suggest softly. He's an adult, and accountable for his own actions. And the only damn reason I'm not calling you out for spoiling him silly is I'm handing his ass back to you. No more free babysitting. That's punishment enough for you. At least with Terry brooding in the car like a banished kid, we can have our pie in peace. There's even some small talk, though it goes on around me. I struggle through my meal. My fatigue is tinged with sadness, not for ridding myself of Terry, but because it seems like I always have to choose between settling for guys like him or being alone. Although maybe not, I wistfully peek in James's direction. I'm surprised to see him looking at me with concern. When our eyes meet, I feel a thread of warmth and wonder for a moment if I'm the only one feeling it. After dinner, Terry's parents take half of both of the pies without asking, wish me a happy Thanksgiving, and make themselves scarce. James sticks around saying he'll take a cab, and help Samantha and me clean up and pack the rest of the food. Okay, I have to admit, even if I didn't want to get away from everybody else over the holidays, I am definitely glad I came tonight. Samantha's normally perfect mascara is smeared at the corners from tears of laughter. "You okay after all of that?" "Yeah, I'm just really tired. And disheartened. And embarrassed. But most of all, I'm bracing myself for the breakup talk that will happen tomorrow. Terry probably won't even remember he was kicked out tonight, let alone the fact I said I'm done. I need to spell it out for him, and whether it's another damn temper tantrum, screw it, I'll do it over the phone in case he starts breaking things again. Once the table is cleared and everything is stored away, Samantha sighs and gives me a smile. "All right. Look, I've been on the road since 4 a.m. my time and I need to get some sleep. Are we still on for movies tomorrow?" I nod at her and we hug goodbye. 3 o'clock. "I'll pick you up at the hotel." "Good." She looks between James and me, who is putting away the last of the dry dishes. "Looks like you have someone you should be talking to, alone, anyway." She winks and gives me another hug, then breezes out, leaving blushing me behind her.
Chapter 2. James.
I just watched Terry mess up what will probably be his one chance to end up with a girl who is too good for him. I have to admit, it was pretty damn funny. But it's given the lovely lady in question an obvious headache, and that's not amusing at all. Terry's been a burden on his mom for years, and he's always avoided growing up. He keeps searching for a nice girl who will take over mom's babysitting duties, so he can mooch and drink and play video games while she does all the work, and it keeps failing. Then he blames the women for having backbones, instead of him having none. It would be one thing if he was just a sad sack with no game. Unfortunately, he's also a jerk with a violent streak, and I'm wary of what he might do next. Growing up, I spent a lot of time with his family, and he's the exact same guy now that he was at 10. And that's part of the reason I'm sticking around. Because once it finally dawns on this jackass that he's been dumped again, he'll lose it at sweet, sensual Karen, and he will not be calm about it. When we were teenagers, I watched him fail with women dozens of times. After Mom and Dad died, I lived in his house so many times that I ended up his sort of brother, sort of babysitter. From 14 years old and on, he aggressively chased girls, got rejected, or had one give him a chance only to blow it, and got malicious afterward. Sometimes violently cruel. Once, I had to gather bail money for the little shit. The second time he got arrested, the family agreed to let him sit in jail for a few weeks. I don't trust Terry will not come back tonight once he drinks some more and works up some steam. He's done it twice before, and I won't let him try the same shit with this adorable curly-haired girl I'm sitting across the couch from. Are you absolutely certain that you're doing all right? I asked very gently. I've produced my flask of good brandy and a smoke, and we're splitting them both. I draw on the smoke and pass it over, lifting an eyebrow at her. Karen looks at me with those dazzling jewel-colored eyes and smiles thinly. I will. I kind of saw this coming. Thanks for the smoke. I might even be able to sleep. And she takes a tiny hit, like a nip. No problem. If sleeping is what you want to do, that is. Of course, there's another reason I've stuck around besides making sure there's no confrontation, and that is Karen herself. I've been attracted to her since the first time we met, in that primal, near immediate way that has only hit me a few times with a woman. She has a sweet personality, a tight little body, and an ache that Terry just hasn't been satisfying, and I'm sure a lot of her needs he has not fulfilled. I want to fix it. Badly. If she's been dealing with Terry this whole time, she has to be desperately in need of a proper one-night stand. I can provide that. In fact, I'd be delighted to. She'll be delighted too, if she's not too exhausted by the whole mess this evening, of course. It seems to be dawning on her what I'm suggesting. Her cheeks turn endearingly pink. Did you have some other idea? For a moment, I smile broadly, and her blush deepens. Adorable. I imagine you're very unhappy with your soon-to-be ex-boyfriend, I purr at her. And I really like you. Always have. Her eyes widen a little like she's waiting for me to say that I'm joking, or testing her. Do you mean that you? I'll be blunt, I reply in a gentle tone. I want to spend a few hours making you forget about my stupid cousin, who doesn't deserve you. I have a nice hotel room 10 blocks away that we could go to. She draws a long, shuddering breath and her eyes dilate. She wants it, she wants me. But then she surprises me. I shouldn't go sleeping with anyone else until I properly break up with Terry, she admits with a sigh. Otherwise, I'd be grabbing my purse to go with you right now. A delayed yes is still a yes, even if I have to wait until she deals with the last of my cousin's drama. I take another swallow of brandy and smile at her. Well, I'm not about to challenge you for being ethical. It's just another thing to like about you. My smile goes lazy. Rain check for tomorrow evening? She squeezes her knees together, and her lips part slightly with desire. She nods. Make it 9 tomorrow night. 9 it is. I'll bring dinner. I frown. I should tell her about Terry's violent responses to rejection. What is it? She asks, looking a little worried. Terry. He's? Don't scare her needlessly. Not known for taking breakups well. He doesn't have your key, does he? Or know where the spare is? She swallows and then shakes her head. I never gave him one. I go over to the street-facing windows. Both are barred and locked. Good. Are you planning on going out tonight? Just to take the trash. She glances at the overflowing bin behind her. Try to leave it for the morning if you can. Take your phone along if you can't. She seems upset. How much trouble should I expect? If he shows up, chances are he'll be drunk and obnoxious. But tonight, don't go outside your door more than you need to, and don't leave it unlocked when you take out the trash. If he shows up, don't open the door. I give her a wry look. Call the number on that card I gave you, and I'll shove a boot up his butt. She giggles. You don't sound like you'd mind too much. I don't like how he treats you, plain and simple. You deserve better than what he can provide. I turn back and approach her again as she gets up, pinch out the smoke, and hand her the rest. I can deliver it. However, if you want to give that fool his marching orders first, well, as I said. I wink at her, and she smiles a touch wider. I should really get going. She fetches my good wool topcoat and helps me into it, a shy attempt at contact. So, 9 o'clock tomorrow then? I turn and deliberately sever the touch barrier, caressing her cheek with 2 fingers. She's made her choice, and I respect it. See you then. Karen's apartment is on the 3rd floor of a 6-story brick walk-up with battered iron railings. My groin aches as I trot down the stairs with a dozen ideas of what to do to divine Karen tomorrow rolling through my head. I can't decide. We may have to try a few things before the night is over. Tomorrow night. Brilliant. It would be better if it happened tonight, but for a lovely lady like Karen, I don't mind waiting. I look up and down the darkened street before taking my phone out to summon a ride. Too many cars, too many bushes, too many dark alleyways. A thief or another criminal, or a furious drunken boyfriend about to be exed, could hide anywhere around here. I frown. I have this peculiar feeling. I should test it before I depart for the night. A man in my line of work lives by his instincts. I tell everyone who asks that I install security systems. Truth be told, I spend most of my nights at work deactivating them. Especially the fancy ones that guard wealthy people's gem collections. No one in my family knows I'm a professional thief. Families like ours, it's either incredible luck or crime to pull you out of poverty. I did not wait for luck, but I also have never been caught. Instincts are a big part of that. And right now, I smell a problem brewing. Something causes me to pause from calling a cab. Instead, I follow my hunch and saunter around the block. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong very often. By the time I round the last corner, my suspicions are confirmed. I hear an argument at Karen's place. I pick up my pace, careful on the icy pavement, and soon enough, Terry's voice is cracking with outrage. You can't leave me. I won't let you. Now let me in. We're going to fix this. This is so much more cringeworthy than usual. I break into a run. He sounds threatening, and he isn't taking no for an answer. I hear Karen snap something back and he bellows, "Shut up, tramp," and then a struggle begins. "Let go of me." Karen screams. "Get out of the doorway. You can't come in. Go away." "Oh, I'm coming in," Terry pants as I take the stairs to the 3rd floor, 2 at a time. "I'm coming in, and you're gonna make this up to me, or I'm gonna make you sorry." "Go to hell." I said we're done. A note of panic in Karen's voice fills me with rage. Hell. Of course, none of her neighbors respond. A few lights go on, but nobody comes out. New Yorkers, in a nutshell, apathy is everywhere. I say when we're done, tramp. I'm the man. Terry yells and then yelps to the sound of a hard slap. "Well, you definitely are a piss-poor excuse for one," I remark in an icy voice once I'm directly behind him. Terry freezes. His furry hand is still wrapped around Karen's wrist, but he loosens his grip and she yanks it free. I don't give him time to turn around. Instead, I grab him by the hair and the back of his shirt and pry him off the doorway. He yelps again, whining in protest as I slam him against the railing to cow him before taking hold of him again. "I'm not bailing you out any longer because you can't handle the consequences when you mess up with women," I hiss in his ear as Karen watches us. "You can do one of 2 things. You can leave down the stairs, or you can be a nuisance and get pitched over the railing. You just want her for yourself, you damn poacher. I'm not gonna be your cock." His voice is high with fear. I roll my eyes and pull his hair backward until he threatens to unbalance. "You can't be a cuckold if you're no longer someone's boyfriend, you idiot. She's dumped you twice tonight. Denial doesn't change the damned facts." I step up in front of him and give him a shake, staring into his eyes. "Now, Are you going to leave, or are you going to land in the bushes and pick rose thorns out of your ass for the next 3 hours? He opens his mouth wide and closes it a few times like a goldfish scooped up in a net. His anger has been replaced by raw panic. Don't toss me over. It's a 2-story drop. Then get out of here. I shift my grip and give him a shove toward the stairs. He almost tumbles down headfirst before grabbing the railing. He barrels down the stairs, sometimes jumping over some of them, sometimes almost falling flat on his face, his whimpered curses and terrified gasps echoing until he disappears down the street. How am I related to that piece of shit? I turn back to Karen. Hey, are you all right? She looks at me, her eyes red from crying, and shakes her head. Okay. What can I do for you? I ask very carefully. She throws herself into my arms.
End of sneak peek for Thankful by Michelle Love. Thank you for listening to this preview of Thankful, a secret baby romance audiobook. Please like and subscribe to support this channel. It helps more than you know.